I'm all set up. I've got all of our questions ready to go. I always have my laptop because I film on the phone, but the text is too small, it's too far away. So I've got my laptop so I can see all of your comments. So let me just set everything up. But I hope you've been having a lovely Easter weekend. I can't believe, I always forget it's Easter because I don't have kids and I'm not religious, and I always forget it's Easter, and then everyone's like, oh, it's a bank holiday weekend. I'm like, is it? Oh my God, Easter's happening. So I hope you've been having a lovely weekend, and also the time difference today hasn't kind of messed up your routine. Who knows what the time is anymore? Nobody knows. But hi guys, how are you doing? I hope you're having a lovely day. I've had some amazing questions come in about dining at Disney and food at Disney, and I think dining is such a big part of any trip. It can really make your experience. If you have a bad experience, it can kind of put a dampener on the trip. So I cannot wait to deep dive into all these amazing questions. And the questions were great because they covered such a wide range of things that I think people really want to know. It's the questions that when people are planning, they're like, what? I need to know this information. So you've had the best questions. So well done, everyone. Round of applause for you. Hi guys, happy Easter. Oh, it's lovely to see you all. And oh, it's amazing you've got home just in time. That is perfect timing. And thank you for taking time out on your Easter Sunday to come spend time with me, because I was always like, oh, on a bank holiday, will people be around? Are people on holiday? People visiting family? So thank you for making the time. It's perfect. Hi Kirsty, how are you doing? But I can't wait to start this. Like, I love the Disney restaurants. Like, I plan so far in advance what I'm going to eat. It's absolutely ridiculous. But back in the day when you had to book your Disney World dining 180 days in advance, aka 6 months in advance, I knew a year in advance what I was eating. I was like, I am all over this. So I'm one of those crazy people that plans very far in advance, but I cannot wait to dive into these. What I'm going to do this time is, because the questions were so good, I'm going to start with the questions, and then they also lead on to other things I planned to talk about. So we've all been thinking the same thing, so great minds think alike. So I'm so glad that the questions linked up to the topics I wanted to talk about. So shall we dive in? Let's dive in. And one of the first questions, which I think is such a good question, is from Chris over in Germany. And she was asking which advanced dining reservations are a must and which ones can you just do walk-ups. And all of the parks are slightly different, but I would always say it's much better to have dining reservations planned if you can, because the walk-ups aren't always available. So if there's somewhere you really, really want to eat, it's much, much better to plan a dining reservation. The way I always do it is, as soon as you can book a dining reservation, I will book one. And then if close to the time my plans change, I can always cancel it. But it's much harder to get one at a later date. And it can be difficult to rely on walk-ups. Disneyland Paris, for example, there's not very many walk-ups at all. And the ones that they do have go very, very quickly. Disney World, again, it's the same sort of thing. There are some walk-ups available, but sometimes you might have to wait a few hours. It's very, very long. I did find in Disneyland they had more walk-ups available than the other Disney parks I've been to. So that is good news. But I'm a big fan of getting a dining reservation as a backup, just to be safe. And then you can always cancel it or modify it, because the worst thing is if there's somewhere you really want to eat, or you know, you think, oh, we might try there, and then you just cannot get a reservation and you're scrambling to think, where are we going to eat now? It's no fun. But hi Mark, it's so lovely to see you. I love seeing the fact that we can all chat in real time. This is the best part about the live stream. I absolutely love it. But the other thing I would say about dining reservations is, if you can't get the ones you want, don't panic. When people's trips get closer and closer, they start changing their plans. So cancellations happen a lot. So even when you're at Disney, you might find a reservation for somewhere you really want, or there's amazing websites like Mouse Dining, so you can put in alerts to say, I want to eat breakfast in Boma on this date, and when that becomes available, they will let you know. So if you don't get your dining reservations that you want, don't panic, there are other ways. And if it all goes to pot and you haven't been able to, you can try the walk-up system. But I'm always like, let's just let people know that it's not always available. So if you can get those dining reservations, definitely do, because it saves you so much time and so much hassle. Yes, this is such a good question. So if you are on a solo trip, It is better, especially somewhere like Disney World, to make a reservation for 2 people, and then you can either modify it down to 1, or when you arrive, just let them know it's 1 person, because for some reason the Disney World system doesn't really allow you to book for 1 person. I don't know why. It's always like, there's no reservations, no reservations. As soon as you put 2 people in, loads of reservations. So I would always do that. And it's kind of that thing of, if the system is kind of rigged so that you can't get a reservation, you're going to be at a table for 2 people anyway. So I wouldn't feel too bad about it. It's not like you're going to, if you book like a table for 6 and there's one of you and they're like, oh, we could have used that for other people, it's not a problem. I would say Disneyland Paris is a lot better. I've never had a problem booking a table for 1. So if you are on a solo trip, Disneyland Paris, it seems much easier to book for 1. But yeah, Disney World, definitely book for 2. And then even when you arrive, if you do the online check-in, you can say it's 1 person then, or at the desk, just let them know it's just 1 person. And they're always fine with it, which is really good. Yes, and this is a really good point about Cinderella's Royal Table, because you're 100% correct. For Cinderella's Royal Table, you do have to pay in advance. And I actually did this last time I was in Disney World, that I could not get a reservation for 1. So I did book for 2. And then when I turned up, I said the other person isn't able to come, and they did refund the second amount. But the downside with that is obviously you pay at the time of booking. So I booked at the 60-day mark. So you're you're paying out 2 months in advance and waiting for 2 months for the refund. So that isn't super fun. It would be helpful if they would do reservations for 1 people easier. So that is something to be aware, but there aren't many places that do that. I think it's Cinderella's Royal Table, and there's something like Hoop-de-Doo, but I don't think anywhere else you have to pay. It's only those 2, but that is something to be aware of, because that's a little bit annoying, but they will refund you, which is good news. But when we were talking about the ADRs, I thought it would be really good now to list some of the restaurants that are the hardest to get. So these are the ones which you try and book first. And some of my top tips are, when you're booking your dining, don't book in chronological order. Book instead the hardest to get reservations first. And what I like to do is I'll log on to the Disney website, and then I will open up a tab for every restaurant I want to book a reservation for. And then I have them in order of like most difficult to least difficult. So I can just like click on it, refresh, book, move on to the next one. And that will help you speed through the process. And you've got much more chance of getting those reservations. But something that's just come, which has been amazing, and I just tried it out last week, was you can now, if you're booking your Disney World reservations, see all of the time slots for the whole day and up to 10 days at a time, which is fantastic, because it used to be, if you were visiting Magic Kingdom over 2 days and you wanted to go to Be Our Guest, for example, you'd try one day, and if there was no reservations, you'd have to start the whole process again and look for the second day, and it just took time up. Whereas now you just look at one screen and it shows you all of the available times over the whole entirety of your trip, well, up to 10 days, and it's fantastic. It's so quick, it's so streamlined. It's like the kind of wish everyone's been wanting to have. So that is making Disney World booking much simpler. But yes, I thought I would go through some that are hard to get. So I'll start with Disney World, because I know Chris is going to Disney World in September. She's one of the people that is coming to the Roundup Rodeo Barbecue meetup. So we're going to be doing a meetup whilst we're there. That's going to be one of the things. I'll probably do a few over the course of the 2 weeks, but that's one we definitely want to do, because there's so many people that want to try there, and some of us are going solo, and we're like, oh, can we eat somewhere like that solo? So we're going to have an amazing meetup there. But I'd let you know first, the Disney World reservations are hard to get. So the ones you're going to be wanting to book first are places like Be Our Guest, Cinderella's Royal Table, Victoria and Albert's, if you do want that proper fine dining experience. It was voted the 3rd best restaurant in America at one point. So it is amazing. It's very pricey, but if you're looking for proper fine dining, that's amazing. Ohana goes very quickly. Space 220 and the Lounge. California Grill, because you have the amazing view over Magic Kingdom, particularly at fireworks time. Topolino's Terrace for the great character breakfast. The evening's easier to get, but the breakfast is harder to get. Yak and Yeti in Animal Kingdom, super popular. Boma, super amazing buffet. That is one to book quickly. Chef Mickey's, again, you're right next to Magic Kingdom, meeting all the characters at your meal. You've got Kona Cafe, particularly the breakfast. Kona Cafe, the food is really, really great. And because you're literally right next to Magic Kingdom, it's perfect before your park day. But those breakfast slots can go very quickly. You've also got Storybook Dining with Snow White, or in fact, kind of any of the character dining meals. Not all of them sell out immediately, but I would kind of put them towards the top of your booking because everyone likes to do a character dining meal during their trip. So they do go quickly. 900 Park Fair has just reopened. They have been going like gold dust. It's a super fun experience. I'm really excited to try it again. It's been closed for a very, very long time. It hasn't reopened since the pandemic until, well, it's going to open in April. So it's going to be amazing to see the difference there, what the food's like now. The characters have changed up slightly, so very excited for that. And that's what I would say from Disney World. Those are the main ones you're going to want to try and book first thing so that you know you've got them, and the others you can book afterwards. When it comes to Disneyland Paris, the thing that's great is if you are staying at a Disneyland hotel, you can book up to a year in advance, which is incredible. And if you're staying off-site, it's normally 30 days in advance. I would say the thing that's interesting at Disneyland Paris is not all the reservations open at the same time. So at the year mark or the 30-day mark, you might think, I'm going to book all my dining, and then you'll see that some places aren't up, and you might think that, oh, all the reservations must be gone, and it's not that, it's just that they haven't opened it yet. So do keep checking back. But the ones that will go very, very quickly are Downtown, Pim Kitchen, Auberge de Cendrillon, which is the Princess Dining Meal, Royal Banquet. If you are staying at the Disneyland Hotel, you can also dine at the Le Table de Lumiere. That will go very quickly because it's exclusive just to hotel guests. You've got Plaza Gardens when it's the character breakfast or dinner. At lunch, no characters, so it's easy to get, but don't fall into the trap that if you book at lunch, you won't see any characters. So do be aware it's just breakfast and dinner. Manhattan restaurant is super popular. One of my favourite restaurants, amazing. Captain Jack's could go very quickly because it's inside Pirates of the Caribbean, amazing setting. Chez Remy, again, incredible setting. Everything is oversized because you are shrunk down to the size of a rat in the restaurant, which is fantastic. And Waltz is also very, very popular. You're overlooking Main Street. If there's a parade happening, you get to see it, which is fantastic. So those are the kind of ones at Disneyland Paris you're going to want to book as soon as you can. And I thought I'd briefly touch upon Disneyland. Disneyland has very few table service restaurants compared to other places, so it does seem much easier to get reservations, which is good. But the ones that will sell out quicker are Blue Bayou, which is inside the Pirates of the Caribbean ride again. You've got Lamplight Lounge, which overlooks Pixar Pier, amazing in the evenings. And you can also, if you're there at the right time, see World of Colour from there, which is fantastic. Carthay Circle, Storytellers Cafe, which is a princess dining meal, and Goofy Kitchen, which is a character buffet in the Disneyland Hotel. They're the ones that kind of go quickly, so I would recommend getting them. The thing I liked about Disneyland, though, is much easier to book dining. There you have to book 60 days out. You can't, if like you're staying on site, you can't book all your trip at the same time. Everyone books at the 60-day mark. And it just happened to be that I was in Disneyland Paris when my window opened up. So I wasn't being able to book at the exact time it opened. But even 6-7 hours later, I still managed to get the big ones like Blue Bayou and Lamplight Lounge, which was fantastic. So I would say you need to get them on the day that they go, but you don't need to be on the dot ready to go the second they open. Whereas with Disney World, I would highly recommend that because some of those reservations will go very, very quickly within minutes. So definitely have the quickest finger on the drawer. Make sure you have all those tabs open and you're going to have the best chance of getting those reservations. And another top tip is if you are staying on site and you could book that 10-day at a time, what I like to do is the hard to get reservations put later into the trip. So say you are visiting Magic Kingdom for a couple of days, book something like Be Our Guest on the second day, so it's further into the trip because less people have access to those dates, so you've got a higher chance of getting those reservations. But now that you can see the whole 10 days at a time, it's much easier because you can kind of see both dates and which one has a time that suits you better, which is fantastic. So absolutely loving that. Hiya, how you doing? It's great to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, do put them in the chat, or if you have any restaurants that you highly recommend, ones that you think aren't worth it, do let us know, because I always love hearing other people's experiences, and it's so helpful just to get everyone's information and knowledge. We can all like blend our knowledge together, which is fantastic. But I've had a great question as well from Rita, which is all about the best restaurants for solo travellers. And I always think any restaurant you want to go to is the best restaurant. I don't think any restaurant is better or worse for solo travellers. I've always had amazing restaurants. I've always just thought, where do I want to go, and went. I would say if you're uncomfortable with dining alone, sometimes quick service can be better because it's a quicker experience, whereas obviously sit down meals, you're there for a bit longer. So if you're just wanting something to grab on the go and not be sat down and kind of feel like, oh, I'm on my own, or a bit uncomfortable in a restaurant, quick service can be the way forward. But I've had amazing experiences everywhere I've eaten. It is worth noting there are some places where you may get sat with other people. So if you do something like Hoop-de-Doo or Biergarten, they may put you with a table with other people. So those might not be your sort of thing. It depends on how much you like that. Although I went to Biergarten and I had my own table, so I wasn't sat with other people. But I know back in the day, they used to try and make it like a proper Oktoberfest experience. They would have like long tables, multiple people sat together. After the pandemic, they kind of split the tables up a bit. I think they're slowly kind of coming back to the Oktoberfest feel. So that might be something to consider if you're solo. But yeah, if there's any way you want to dine, just go for it. And I think the thing that's great at Disney is people are so caught up in what they're doing that they don't really notice. And they're all just enjoying their food, enjoying their meal. So no one's kind of really looking at you. And what I like about a sit-down meal is it's a great time to take a break. You can rest your feet, you can kind of catch up on social media, sit in the air conditioning if you're in Florida. So it can be a really, really good thing for a solo traveller as well as everyone else. So I have not actually tried Haleo. I've heard amazing things. The paella sounds incredible. It's one of the restaurants I haven't been to yet. So that's definitely on the list. And it's one of the really, really popular restaurants in Disney Springs. I feel like the restaurants in Disney Springs can be a bit hit or miss. They're either like really amazing or a bit mediocre. But that's one that gets super, super highly recommended. So if anyone has been to it, let us know your experiences because it sounds amazing. And I love that there's just so many different cuisines. Like whatever you fancy, you can find in the Disney parks now, which is incredible. So especially somewhere like Disney, where Disney World has over 200 restaurants. So whatever you like, they're going to probably have it, which is fantastic. But we've got some great questions. Like all of your questions have been amazing, guys. I just want to give big props to you because they've been fantastic. I've had some really great questions from Chris, who you will see Chris in my upcoming Disneyland Paris series. We saw Chris and Karen whilst they were in Disneyland Paris at the same time as us, which was fantastic. So we got to meet up, and he sent some questions in, which are great. But he has asked, are there any places that you would never recommend? And have you had any bad experiences? And I think we all know what's coming. If you've seen any of my videos before, you're going to know what I'm going to say. But I have to say, I think bad experiences can be down to just that time you visit. So if I've had a bad experience somewhere, I don't think it necessarily means the restaurant overall is bad. But there's only 2 places that I ever have said to people I wouldn't go there again. One of them obviously being Pim Kitchen in Disneyland Paris, purely because of the Pim incident, as we call it, where when I arrived, I said, oh, I'm vegan. They said, no worries, there's loads of options on the buffet. There was 2 options on the buffet. But the thing at Disneyland Paris is they don't always label the vegan options. So I spoke to a chef, there was like a whole vegetable section and nothing was labelled vegan. So I was like, presumably something here will be vegan. And he went out the back to check with another chef, and then he was like, this, and this, all vegan. Eating away, then ate something that clearly had blue cheese in it because it's got a very distinct taste. And it turns out everything that had been recommended had dairy in. And even though I'm vegan for the animals, I haven't had dairy in probably 25 years because it makes me ill. I'm intolerant to it. So I was ill for the following 2 days. And it's just such a shame that in Disneyland Paris, at least, I feel like the people are more like cooks rather than chefs. They don't necessarily know what's in the food. So it's really disheartening when you get the wrong information. So I would say if you do have any allergies or intolerances, in Disneyland Paris, always check the allergy menu instead, because that will have the right information, and then you'll know exactly where you can eat. Don't make my mistake and just hope that the staff know, because they don't always know, which is such a shame. And I did have a bit of a battle with Disney over a 5-week email back and forth, and I hope that they kind of addressed it, but who knows. But yes, that's one place that I'm like, I would never go back to just because it was such a bad experience. And it was also the fact that the customer service was just not good. Like, in the restaurant themselves, I was like, this isn't okay, like I have a dairy intolerance, like I'm really worried I'm going to be made ill from this. And they were like, oh well, it is what it is. So I complained to guest services, and it's not often you encounter a cast member who's actually outright rude, but she was incredibly rude and aggressive. And she was like, if you had an allergy, then you would have checked. And I was like, well, I don't have an allergy, I'm not going to drop dead, although dairy can kill people. But she was like, but then it's on you, you should have, you know, checked. And I was like, I did check with your staff, and they give the wrong information out. So that's why I ended up in a 5-week argument over email with Disneyland Paris. So definitely always check the allergy menu, that will have the correct information. The US parks are much, much better. They're much, much more informed. Everything is kind of labelled so you know if you go to a buffet, but also the chefs are willing to come out and talk to you. So if you have any dietary requirements whatsoever, in the US, they're going above and beyond. So don't worry about that. They're going to be amazing for you. Oh, we've got some information here. So Hollywood and Vine for breakfast with the Disney Junior characters and Goofy is amazing. But I would suggest booking a Phantasmic package. Now, this is really, really helpful to know, because one of the great things at Disney is you can book these dining packages for stuff like Phantasmic, or if you go to Epcot, they have them, especially during the festivals when they've got like concerts on. And it's a really great way of getting like a reserved spot. So you're not having to like get there super, super early, and you're getting your meal included. And I think that is such a top tip, because it's just saving you the hassle, and you know you're getting a meal included. And particularly if it's a restaurant you already wanted to go to, it's great to combine it with a package. The package is a bit more because it kind of essentially gives you a reserved preferred spot. So you pay a bit for that. It's really good. But I've kind of really wanted to go to Hollywood and Vine, and I didn't know anything about Disney Junior because, you know, as a child-free adult, I wasn't watching it. But at Disneyland Paris, Disney Junior Dream Factory, I am obsessed. It's absolutely ridiculous. I know all the songs word for word now. So the idea of getting to meet like Vampirina and stuff is really exciting now. So I absolutely love that idea. And I think that's really cool, because it's very rare that you can kind of meet these Disney Junior characters. So if you are with anyone that loves Disney Junior, that is such a great character dining meal, because it's kind of really unique as well. So I'm glad to hear it was a really good experience. And later in the day, it switches over to Minnie and her friends. So if you go for breakfast, it's Disney Junior. And then for lunch and dinner, it's Minnie. And I think that's also one of the restaurants that you can do dining packages with. So that's a really good option. And it's a buffet. So if you do like a buffet, and you know, you pay one price and you can eat whatever you like, which is fantastic, that's the way forward. But the other place I would say, there's only one other place that I always told people never go here, and that is Akershus in Epcot. So I went many years, I think it was 2018 that I went. This was just before I turned vegan, like a few months before I turned vegan. Really excited. I love Scandinavian food. So we had like it was like a buffet for salad for starters. Then I had like a sampler platter that had like lots of different dishes from Norway. And then I can't remember what the dessert was, but some sort of dessert. And I got food poisoning. And I was just like, oh no. And then as I started looking into Akershus, a lot of people had food poisoning from the restaurant. Now I have to say, Akershus was shut for a very long time after the pandemic. It only reopened last year, new menu, so it could be a completely different experience now. But it's one of those, you know, if you have a bad experience somewhere, you're like, I don't know if I can bring myself to go back. And I'm like, I'm sure it'd be absolutely fine if I went again, but I just can't. You know, like if you've had like a bad food or something and you go, I can never eat that food ever again. Like that's how I feel. But the great thing about Akershus is it is a princess dining meal. So if you don't want to go to Cinderella's royal table, that is an option. It's a buffet. I think it's gone back to a full buffet now. I don't know if anyone has been recently. Do let us know what the experience was like. I have seen reviews. So like there's a channel called Princess and the Bear who do Disney World food reviews, and what's really great is Princess is vegan, Bear isn't, so they kind of give you an idea of what all of the dishes are like, so it's suitable for everyone to watch, and you can see what they think, what the atmosphere is like, what the food is like, and they seem to really like it there. So maybe it's great, but I'm just so scared of going back. So if you've had a good experience, do let us know. Oh, this is a great question. Do you have any recommendations for vegan snacks in Disney World beyond the pretzels, Dole Whip, and popcorn? So yes, there are some really great vegan options, and I actually have a vegan snack list for Disney World that I have on my website, and it's like a 2-page list of vegan snacks that you can get in the parks. And then there's an extra page where you can add your own, or like meals that you have to try, and then you can tick them all off, which is fantastic. So I'll go and have a little refresh and read out some of the things on the list, because there are some vegan snacks, which is fantastic. It is much harder to get vegan snacks, and a lot of it is different types of Dole Whip, things like that. But there are a few. It's much better than somewhere like Disneyland Paris, where you've kind of got like a vegan cookie, and occasionally you might have a sorbet or some dairy-free Ben & Jerry's. Outside of that, there's not much at Disneyland Paris, so that's why we don't have a snack list for Disneyland Paris. But we do have one for Disney World, we do have one for Disneyland, so they are much more friendly. So let's get up some of the vegan snacks for Disney World, because you've got to have them. If you're in Disney World, we've got to have all the snackies. So I do love Dole Whip. It is good to point out that anything that isn't fruit flavoured, so something like vanilla or coconut, those ones are actually dairy, so avoid them. But any of the fruit flavors are suitable for vegans. They're also gluten-free, which is fantastic. I do love a Mickey pretzel as like a breakfast item, because there's not many in the parks. There aren't many vegan breakfast options, particularly in like quick service places. So if I'm ever thinking I'd like a breakfast, I get a Mickey pretzel as a nice savory breakfast option. Some of the really great things in Disney Springs, there's quite a few great options. You can get the purple oob donut from Everglazed Donuts. They do them in donut form, or they do them in donut holes. And then they also have a drink that's called a Purple Rain, which is like a chai latte with the donut on top. That's really good if you're looking for a donut. Also in Disney Springs, Erin McKenna, the whole bakery is vegan, gluten-free, and kosher. So you could literally eat anything from there, which is fantastic. And the portions are massive. I had like an upside down pineapple cake, and it was like so heavy. I was like, this is unreal. So that's a really, really great option. Something that I don't know if they've changed this recently, but in Epcot, in the Norway Pavilion, Kringler Bakery was starting to sell their Kringler as vegan. So they are kind of like, I think they're kind of similar to pretzels, but they had an almond one and a chocolate one, and they were both vegan for a while. I've got a feeling that one of them's been updated and it might not be vegan. I don't know if it will switch back, but if you go there, check the little leaf to see if it's on the menu still. But I think that's a really, really great option. If you are in Animal Kingdom Lodge, you can get the flamingo cake from the Mara, which is kind of like a spiced chocolate cake, which is really great. You just get that from the fridge, have that anytime you fancy. And Animal Kingdom Lodge definitely is worth visiting, even if you aren't staying there, because you've got the incredible savannah, but also every single restaurant in Animal Kingdom Lodge is incredible. You can't go wrong. So if you just get the 5-minute bus from Animal Kingdom, you can access so much amazing dining. So we'll come back to that later, but it's definitely worth going there. Also, you can have, it's not a snack per se, but you can have the green and blue milks in Galaxy's Edge, because they're all made with plant-based milks. I'm yet to try them, because I'm one of these people that it feels like a lot of milk to drink at one time. And I'm kind of like, that is a lot. That's a very lot. I'm not someone that really drinks milk like that. I'll have it like in a coffee, but not like drink milk. So I'm interested to see, but they're 2 different flavours. If you've tried them, let us know which one you prefer. So I think one's more citrusy, one's more fruity, but which one's which? And some people say one's more like toothpaste. And I'm like, that doesn't sound fruity or tropical or citrusy, but it'll be interesting to see. One of the great things is the vegan beignets. If you head over to Port Orleans, the resorts, you can get the vegan beignets. And what's really nice there is you can also, certain nights of the week, they have Yeehaw Bob, who is a legendary Disney entertainer. So if you're wanting a like evening out, it's definitely worth heading there, getting some vegan beignets, and then going to see Yeehaw Bob, because that's a fantastic night out. It's absolutely worth it. I also like things like the guacamole and tortilla chips at Chose de Margarita in Epcot. If you're looking for something savoury as a snack, that can be really, really good. And you've also got the cookies and cream mousse from Sunshine Seasons in Epcot. So there's quite a few different options, which is nice to know that you know, there's things out there, but they're just a sample. There's a lot more. So if you do fancy having a little look, I have that on my website, and you can download it. You get your 2 pages tick list, and then you get an extra page to add anything you want to add yourself to try. But it's impossible to try them all, I think, unless you just eat snacks. It's a lot to try in 2 weeks or a week, however long you're there. Hi Anne, how are you doing? It's nice to see you. But it's nice to know there are lots of vegan snack options, because in the other parks it can be a bit like, oh, although Disneyland did have some as well. Although Disneyland, it was mostly different types of ice cream, so it's fantastic. Like they have a banana split, they have all stuff like that. But yeah, mostly ice cream based snacks in Disneyland if you are vegan. But one of the other questions Chris had was, what are your favourite sit down and quick service restaurants in Disneyland Paris? Which I think is such a great question. My favourite table service restaurant is Manhattan. I absolutely love it there. The food is so good. The restaurant itself is like really pretty. It's like really elevated. So if you're looking for like a special occasion or just a more like fancy setting, Manhattan is where it's at. And you can also get to visit the Art of Marvel Hotel, because that's where it's based. And it's really nice. If you're looking for something to do in the evenings, have a meal in Manhattan and then go to like the Skyline Bar. It's so relaxing, it's so nice, loads of great drinks in the Skyline Bar, and then you can also have a look at all of the different artwork and props from the Marvel films, go in the shop. And I love to visit that hotel. I visit almost every single trip, and going to Manhattan is a great excuse. Like the food, if you love Italian food, it's so good. So that's my favourite sit down meal at Disneyland Paris. And my favourite quick service meals will probably come as no surprise to anyone, but it's Total. I love Casa de Coco, and I love Super Diner. They are my 3 go-tos. I go to them almost every single trip just because I enjoy them so much. I think Super Diner is such a hidden gem because it's based at the very back of Avengers Campus, kind of behind the Tower of Terror. So a lot of people don't venture that way because there's no rides there, like the shop isn't there, like there's nothing really there apart from a few food trucks and Super Diner. But the food is so good. It's definitely the best quick service meal in Walt Disney Studios Park. So definitely don't skip over Super Diner because their shawarmas are incredible. Like every time I go, I'm blown away. It's one of my favourite meals. But it's hidden, so nobody knows about it. So definitely go there because it's always seats as well. You can always, you're not waiting for ages. It's perfect. Hi Serena, how are you doing? It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. This is great timing. And like I say, if anyone has any tips themselves or restaurants they highly recommend or ones that they think maybe it's not worth the price, skip over, do let us know because I love hearing other people's experiences. But we've had some more amazing questions. So Albie's Planet has asked, what are the best buffets? And I think this might be about Disneyland Paris, but I was like, I'll answer about other ones as well, just in case. But I would say for most people, the best buffets in Disneyland Paris are Downtown and Pim Kitchen. So Downtown is in the Art of Marvel Hotel, and Pim Kitchen is in Avengers Campus in Walt Disney Studios Park. These are the ones that always get the rave reviews. People absolutely love them. They're the ones that will go very quickly. If you're looking for dining reservations, get them fast because they will go. I have eaten at both. Downtown, I obviously liked more than Pim Kitchen because Pim Kitchen tried to kill me. Didn't enjoy that so much. But Downtown was good. I would say if you are vegan or if you have dietary requirements, the buffets at Disneyland Paris aren't particularly great because there's such a limited amount of options for you that you're not really getting your money's worth. Buffets on average are around €50. So you're never ever going to get your money's worth if you have any dietary requirements. But if you're visiting with other people that really want to go to a buffet, those are the 2 best options. I've also heard loads of people have really recommended Chuck Wagon Cafe. I've never been there. That's at the Hotel Cheyenne. And because it's like a value resort, I just thought, oh, it's probably just like a basic buffet. But everyone says the food is amazing. And if you have dietary requirements, it's one of the best. So I think I should definitely check that out because it's one that I've never been to. But I would say another good one I've found is Agrabah Cafe. If you like Middle Eastern food, it's great. There's so many options and I love the setting inside. It's like being inside Aladdin. It's kind of made like a marketplace. It's fantastic and I really enjoyed that. And that's one of the easier buffets to get a reservation for because I think people kind of skip over it. They want to go to the big ones or like a character dining one. But I think that's a really, really good hidden gem at Disneyland Paris. It is also worth mentioning now the new Royal Banquet that has opened at the Disneyland Hotel. It's interesting because if you are a Disney hotel guest, you can visit at lunch, but the dinner is only for guests of the Disneyland Hotel itself. And if you are staying off-site, you can't go to that restaurant at all. So it's only for Disney hotel guests. So that's very, very interesting. I've also heard, and I don't know if this is true, but people have said the lunch buffet and the dinner buffet, same price, but the dinner buffet has better selection because it's just for the people staying at the Disneyland Hotel. And the lunch selection isn't as varied and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's true because I've not done either of them. I was planning to eat there in our latest trip. But once they announced the options and the price, I was just like, I don't think I can justify it. It's €100 per person for this buffet. And I just know that the vegan options are not going to be worth €100. I do know some friends that went, they are mostly plant-based. So they were saying there are a handful of vegan options marked on the buffet, which is fantastic. But they said for vegans, it's absolutely not worth the price because you will never get your money's worth. It's also worth noting the thing that it's kind of famous for this buffet is seafood. So if you really like seafood, that's where you're going to get your money's worth. But if you're someone like me, they have basically a massive display and it's supposed to be like a big wow moment, but they have a really massive display of all of the seafood on show. For someone like me, I would hate to see that. So it is worth noting if that's something that you kind of put off, if like you don't like seeing fishmongers and running past them and stuff like that, it's something to be aware of because that's kind of like the big showpiece that they have. But if you have eaten there, do let us know what the experience was like. I think people have said it's good. I don't think any buffet is probably worth €100, but because it is a character dining meal and all the characters are in their like royal costumes, that's obviously what you're paying for. But it is worth noting that that is the most expensive Disney buffet on earth. By comparison, buffets at Disney World, I think the most expensive is $60. So it's significantly more. Admittedly, in the US, you then add tax and tip on top. So it is more than $60. You are paying more than $60 in the long run. But it is worth noting it is a very expensive buffet, the most expensive Disney buffet on earth. So is it worth the cost? Would you pay €100 for a buffet? Is any buffet worth €100? Who knows? But I think you're mostly paying for the character dining experience and the experience of being in the Disneyland Hotel. So if you have been, do let us know. Yes, so they do have characters at lunchtime as well. It's not just in the evening. So if you go, you will definitely get characters still. So that's great. And that's obviously the big draw because there aren't lots of character dining meals at Disneyland Paris. So it's nice that you've got this. Le Table de Lumiere, which is the fine dining restaurant, is also a character dining meal with prince and princesses. That's a not a buffet, it's like a normal restaurant, but it is only for Disneyland hotel guests. So you have to be staying there, and that's €120 for the menu for a 3-course meal. But you get to meet Disney princesses and the princes at the same time. They come round as couples and meet everyone. So if you are staying at the Disneyland Hotel, that can be a nice experience. But of course, again, it's €120 depending on the type of food you like to eat. Or if you have dietary requirements, the price is probably not really going to give you your money's worth. I know the vegan options, it's like, I think it's like a lentil salad, then like a quinoa and vegetable main, and then like a fruit dessert, which is definitely not €120 worth of food. I know a few people have said the kids' menus, they're a bit more, because it's a fine dining restaurant, they're a bit more fancy. So people have taken their kids and the kids have not liked the menu. So it's just worth checking out the menu. You can find all of the menus on the Disneyland Paris website. So if you're thinking of eating anywhere, do check that out in advance and you can see the prices and also the food on offer so you can see whether it's something you would like or not. This is such a good question. about eating a buffet if you are solo, because it is the whole thing of when you go to the buffet, what do you do so that they know you're still there? So I will take something like a hand sanitizer or something like that I can leave on the table to kind of make out, oh, I'm coming back, guys, I'm coming back, like, so everyone knows, because that is the awkward thing, because you typically are going to probably take your bag and stuff up with you. I have seen a lot of people leave their stuff behind and it seems fine, but I always take my bag with my like expensive things with me to the buffet. So you do want them to know, I'm coming back, guys. So I just leave something like a hand sanitizer or whatnot on the table to be like, I'm coming. Or if when you're about to go up, you see your server, you can always just let them know, oh, I'm just going up to the buffet. I'll be back. Don't get rid of everything. It's just perfect. Yes, this is the thing, isn't it? Like, it would be so nice to have all of these amazing dining experience, but it's so true to think, right, like trips are already really expensive, and then you're like, oh, do I want to pay that much for a meal? And is it worth coming all this way just to do that? So it's hard to know, but yeah. It's one of those, some of the dining experiences are really outstanding and you can't get them anywhere else. So it's one of those, if you really, really want to do it, I think it's definitely worth doing. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that also, like, the two restaurants in the Disneyland Hotel are two of the most expensive Disney restaurants in the world. So I think there's only two restaurants more expensive than La Table de Lumiere, and one of them is Victoria and Albert's, which was voted the third best restaurant in the whole of America. So the fact that it's trying to compete at that level, I personally don't think the food quality at Disneyland Paris warrants those prices. But I also haven't been, so maybe for those restaurants, they have really upped their game because they know we're charging a super, super high price tag. We have to have the quality and the service. So hopefully that's the case. But yeah, they are very expensive, and it's just interesting to see. I think because the hotel's so expensive, they obviously have to have prices that match that to kind of keep in with the quality and the theming. But it's almost getting to the point where it's just like it's got out of control, guys. I know they priced the Art of Marvel very high. I think the Art of Marvel hotel was about the same price as what the Disneyland hotel was, but because the Disneyland hotel was kind of shut, they just charged that. So then now they've obviously had to do a massive increase for the Disneyland hotel, and yeah, it's just spiraling. It's getting very, very expensive. But yes, it's such a good idea. Just leave something little behind, just so they know you're coming back to your table. But that's so hard. That's the one downside as a solo traveller. You're like, how do I go to the buffet and they still know I'm here? Yes, this is such a good idea. So Serena said when she was at the Cheyenne for breakfast, and that's a buffet, they had their drinks. They'd like have a tea, freshly made tea, and then they came back and it had been taken away. And it's like, oh no, I was going to drink that, guys. So that is the downside. It's so difficult, isn't it? You're like, please don't take my things. I'm coming back. I want my drink. And like you say, if you're in Disneyland Paris or somewhere where you have a jacket, that can be a really good option. But yeah, Disney World is difficult because you're like, I don't have layers on. It's way too hot. I can't survive in the heat. So yeah, it's harder in Disney World to know what to leave behind. So I just leave like a hand sanitizer. But some of the best buffets I thought I'd mention also for Disney World are places like Boma. Boma is incredible. It's in Animal Kingdom Lodge, so it's just 5 minutes away from Animal Kingdom. The breakfast buffet is unreal. It has a mixture of American food and African food, and I couldn't get over it. Like, on the buffet itself, there was tons of vegan options, but the buffet is huge. So anyone going is going to be able to find loads of things that they enjoy to eat. But what I really liked at Boma was when I arrived, I told my server I was vegan, and they just said, okay, there's going to be this and this on the buffet, which is amazing. But then they actually went and spoke to the chef, and the chef made food specifically for me. So they made like a tofu scramble, they made some babuti, they made some waffle, they made like 3 or 4 things. So I went up to the buffet and I was like, oh, look at all this food, like massive plate full of food. And then I came back and sat down, and then my server brought out like a platter, and she was like, oh, the chef's made this for you. And I was like, how am I going to eat all this? But the food is unreal. It's so good. This is definitely one of the best buffets at Disney World. If you get a reservation there, do it. It will go very quickly because it is super, super popular. They also do dinner, which again, I really enjoyed. I think I preferred the breakfast more, But the dinner is also really, really good. So I would definitely recommend. Bohm is by far my favourite buffet in Disney World. It's so good. And yes, Serena, you've recommended Tusker House, which is fantastic because in September, that's one of the restaurants I wanted to go to because I've never been. And that looks like a really great buffet. I love, again, that it's that mixture of American and African food. I love that the characters are in their safari outfits. And I'm so glad to hear it's great because it's definitely on my list. I was like, I need to go. And I always like, because in Disney World, where there are 200 restaurants, you can try different dining every single time you go. And it is hard sometimes because I'm like, oh, but this one I love and I want to go back. But then I'm like, oh, if there's somewhere I haven't been, maybe I should try that. So definitely going to Tusker House. So I'm glad that you've recommended that because I'm like, it's on the list. But we've had some great questions about what are the top places to eat in Disneyland Paris. And I would say Manhattan, Downtown, Toad Hall, Super Diner, Casa di Coco and Chez Remy. I would say they're like my top ones. If I'm going, they're the ones I'm kind of looking out for. Chez Remy, I love the theming and the food I've had is always great. I would say it's very French. So if you love French food, you're going to love it, but it's not for everyone. I kind of love that Disneyland Paris aren't afraid of having restaurants themed to a certain thing. So I really love Restaurant Hakuna Matata, which is a quick service restaurant. And again, it has more like African food. The chakalaka there is amazing, but because of that, it's not to everyone's taste. But I like that Disneyland Paris don't just go, we'll just do typical theme park food across the board. They do have more interesting options, but it can mean if you're not really into that cuisine, you might need to skip over those restaurants. But a really great question about Disneyland Paris is, are the sit-down restaurants worth it, or should you just go for quick service meals? And I would say if you have the budget for them, some of the sit-down meals are amazing. So somewhere like Captain Jack's or Chez Remy, where you've got amazing theming, you really, really feel like you're in a Disney park. And that's so much fun because in Captain Jack's, you're inside the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, which is amazing. Chez Remy, everything's oversized. Those booths where you have the plates as the back of the booth are literally incredible. But again, interesting, both of those restaurants, the food is quite divisive. So Captain Jack's is more like Caribbean food. I've never had anything like super spicy there, but it is kind of Caribbean flavours. So there'll be curries, stuff like that. If people aren't really into that, it's not always everyone's favourite restaurant. Same with Chez Remy. If you're not a big fan of French food, it might not be the best place to go. But that's why somewhere like Manhattan's good. Everyone loves Italian food and it's really, really good in Manhattan. So yeah, and I would say the other good thing about a table service meal is you get to sit down. And in France, it's kind of a dining culture. So they're not like rushing you out the door, which is good. The only downside with that is that sometimes you can be in restaurants quite long because the service, they aren't, because they're not trying to rush you, then they're also not rushing. So sometimes there can be quite a gap between courses. So I would say if you go for a table service meal, look at, it's probably going to take an hour and a half, most likely. So just be aware of that. But it can be a really great time to relax and unwind. But if you're wanting to fit more into your day, then quick service can be fantastic. And there are really, really great options. Like I say, Casa di Coco, everyone I know loves Casa di Coco. The burritos are amazing. Toad Hall is great. Super Diner is great. Places like Pizzeria Bellanotte and Stark Factory are also great. So they can be a really good option for quick service meals. And you've already booked Downtown and Waltz, and what are my opinion on them? And yeah, so Downtown I think is a really great pick. It's definitely considered the best buffet in Disneyland Paris by far. When I went, the options were like super fresh and you could taste they were really fresh. They were interesting. Obviously for me, there weren't loads of options. I think there were like 5 or 6 options on the buffet itself. So there wasn't loads of variety. It was more like the vegan options were side dishes rather than mains. But because there was like 5 or 6, there was enough variety that you could kind of fill your plate up and go away satisfied, which was great. But I know for people that don't have dietary requirements and stuff, they absolutely love Downtown. They're like, there's so much to eat. They have like really fun themed like desserts where they have like Thor's hammer and stuff like that, which is awesome. And Waltz I think is really, really cute. I love that it's on Main Street, so I got to see like the parade go past the window, which was fantastic. I love that all of the meals are themed around foods that Walt Disney enjoyed, so I really love that kind of touch of Walt Disney in the restaurant. And it has a lot of food that I think a lot of people would like chili and pot pie and stuff like that. So I think that can be a really, really good option. Again, it's one of those restaurants that people either really like or are just like, oh, it was fine. But some people I know want to go every trip. They absolutely love it. And other people are like, it was nice, but I'm not rushing back. So I feel like it's just personal preference. I think that's the thing I always want to put across, that if there's someone that I really dislike or have had a bad experience, it could just be a one-off thing. So definitely, if there's someone you really want to try, don't be put off if you hear like one negative review or stuff like that, because everyone has different preferences of the type of food they enjoy. So never fear. And I've never really had, apart from Akasha's and Pink Kitchen, like a restaurant I've been like, oh, I would never ever go back. Like, there's been ones where the first time I went to restaurant Hakuna Matata, my food was a little bit cold because it was towards the end of the service. It was going to shut soon. But I went back this time and I was like, oh my God, it was amazing. So it can just be some factors, so never be put off. But hi, it's nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Oh my God, you are 100% right. Disneyland Paris should start doing a dessert party for the fireworks. 1,000,000%. Like, I absolutely loved doing the dessert party in Disneyland. And it was fantastic because to be able to have a seat and an unobstructed view, and you're not having to get there really early, and there's no kids on shoulders and all of that nonsense, it was amazing. And the desserts were really good as well. And for my upcoming Disney World trip, that's something I would like to do. But I think Disneyland Paris, it would be amazing if they started offering that, because the Disneyland Paris fireworks get very, very busy, so it can be hard to get a good viewpoint. I know they've just started selling, you can get a preferred spot if you pay €19 per person. And I saw a review and someone went and they were literally right in front of the castle. And I was like, 1,000,000% that looks amazing. But I think a dessert party would be fantastic at Disneyland Paris. So fingers crossed they would do something like that, because that would be so good. But yes, I'm so impressed to hear that the smokehouse is good. That's one place I've never been in Disneyland Paris. It's in Disney Village. So I am glad to hear that that's really, really good. No vegan options there, of course. So I haven't been. Although Silver Spur Steakhouse in Disneyland itself does have a really good vegan main, which is kind of like a skewer with vegan meatballs and sausage and stuff like that. And you wouldn't think a steakhouse would be a good place for a vegan to go. I've really enjoyed that. Although I have to say, a lot of people I know that aren't vegan don't particularly like Silver Spur Steakhouse. So it's weird that their vegan options are great, and then the meat options in a steakhouse aren't. So it's just weird. But I'm so excited to hear that you're going to Disneyland Paris soon. So I hope these answers to your questions have helped, and I can't wait to hear what you think of downtown and Waltz. Like, it's going to be amazing, and it's so exciting. You're going in just a few days, so I can't wait to follow along and see how your trip is. And I just hope you have the best time. And yes, it's so interesting, Serena, that you're going to be booking the dessert party for California. And yeah, it was just so nice to be able to have a seat, because otherwise you're standing up, and it's one of those things that after you've been walking about all day long, your feet are just like, I can't be coping with this. This is ridiculous. So when you're having like a lovely seat, unobstructed view, it's perfect. So 100% all about that. Hi Lucy, thank you so much for watching my Disneyland vlog series. It was such a dream trip. It's been amazing. I can't believe the last vlog is on Wednesday. It's unreal, but it's very exciting you're going to Disney World next month. Is there anything you're most excited for? Oh, I love hearing about other people's trips. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, it's interesting you said, Serena, you didn't like Silver Spur Steakhouse. It's one of those restaurants that I hear lots of people say they didn't enjoy it, but I've always loved their vegan options. It's just so weird. But I was going to do a little review of some of my personal favourite restaurants, and some of the restaurants that I think either don't live up to the price or the experience isn't great. It's not necessarily the food isn't great, but it's just like, is it someone I'd rush to get a reservation for? Probably not. So we'll start with the good first. But for Walt Disney World, my favourite restaurants that I highly recommend to everyone would be Sanaa. Unreal, absolutely lives up to the hype. It's one of the most hyped things. Get the bread service. Get the bread service. When people say it's amazing, they are not joking. 100% go and get the bread service. Jungle Navigation Skipper's Canteen, I think, is a hidden gem in Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom, the dining is not that great, honestly. Jungle Navigation Skipper Canteen, the food, so good. And what I didn't realise is, because obviously it's Jungle Cruise themed, all of your servers tell the same sort of like dad jokes. And it was a hoot. I had the most amazing time. I'm definitely going back. Like, it was so good. I also really love Boma, as we've mentioned. I love Tiffin's in Animal Kingdom. And what's really cool about Tiffin's as well is it's kind of basically like an art museum, and it shows you all of the artwork and the inspiration for the different lands in Animal Kingdom Park. And Joe Rohde is my favourite Disney Imagineer. He was the guy who created Animal Kingdom Park. And whilst I was waiting, I was having a little look around, and they actually have his sketchbook. So you can see his sketches from when he visited all these countries. And it's amazing. And my server was fantastic. She happened to be a graduate with an art history degree. So she loved the fact that this was kind of like a museum as well as a restaurant. So she actually gave me a tour around and told me all of the different artifacts I was looking at and artwork, and it was amazing. So that's, if you love Disney parks, that's definitely one to visit. Toppling Terrace, I think, is the best character dining meal in Disney World. This is at the Riviera Resort, so you can get that on the Skyliner from Hollywood Studios or Epcot. They only do character dining at breakfast, but it's so good. The food is amazing, but the restaurant's really spacious. It wasn't rushed interactions. It's so good, and you get an amazing view out over Disney World because you are at the top of the hotel, which is amazing. Sebastian's Bistro, unreal. And it's also one of the cheaper meals at Disney World. This is a big hidden gem. It's at Caribbean Beach Resort, so again on the Skyliner. If you're visiting Hollywood Studios, nip there for dinner and then a few minutes back to the park. Unreal. It's Caribbean style food, and it's one of the best meals I've ever had. They have this dessert. They have this like coconut like bread pudding dessert. Unreal. And what I really like about it is there's one place where the vegan option and the non-vegan option, it's the exact same menu, but they just tailor it to your dietary requirements. So it's not like you're having to eat completely separate meals. It's like the exact same meal, which is fantastic. Also love Steakhouse 71. Beer Garden is one of my favourite buffets. The fact that you also get entertainment, you have men in Lederhosen playing like the massive horn you see on the side of a mountain and stuff like that. Everyone's like got their beers in the air. Incredible. So the fact that you're getting entertainment with your meal, 100% worth it. And the food was great as well. Liberty Tree Tavern, amazing. It's a Thanksgiving style meal. So if you are visiting from outside the US, getting to see what a Thanksgiving meal is like is awesome. Food really, really good. Le Cellier in Epcot. So if you're wanting some Canadian food, especially the poutine, definitely head there. Also Spice Road Table if you like Middle Eastern food. This is kind of like a tapas style Middle Eastern restaurant. Unreal, like only ever heard amazing things about it. Everyone seems to love it. Sartuli Canteen is one of my favourite quick service restaurants. Again, it's so interesting. It's not like, obviously if you want stuff like typical theme park fare, like burgers and pizzas, you're going to be able to get that. If you're looking for something a bit different, Sartuli Canteen is unreal in Animal Kingdom. Ronto Roasters in Galaxy's Edge, excellent. Both their breakfast and lunch Ronto wraps are amazing. Blaze Pizza in Disney Springs, unreal. You get to build your own pizza, and it's also really cheap. It's only about like $11 or $12 for a whole personal pizza, and you've put all the toppings on it that you want, so it's personalized to you, which is fantastic. Docking Bay in Galaxy's Edge, again, really great food. And Regal Eagle in Epcot for those kind of like burgers. Unreal. If you like barbecue style food, amazing, absolutely incredible. Oh, this is so interesting. Lucy, you're looking to do the make your own popcorn in Main Street Confectionery. I think that's such a fun experience. You should definitely do it. And it's one of those like little fun things at Disney. Like, I love that. Like, obviously the rides are really great, but there's all these other little things you can do, which is just part of the experience. You should definitely do that. And it's so exciting you're going to get to experience Flower and Garden. I am desperate to go to that festival. So I cannot wait to hear about it. I hope you have an amazing time because it looks so good. The topiaries are literally incredible. It's so good. And all the food's amazing. But yes, my favourite character dining restaurants. This is a really, really great question because I think character dining is a fantastic way to meet characters. Like, sometimes the queues to meet characters are so long, but a character dining meal, you're meeting multiple and having food. So I would say in Disneyland Paris, my favourite by far is Auberge de Cendrillon. It is very expensive. It's almost €100 for the meal again. But it is elevated dining. It's kind of like a fine dining meal. You get to meet 4 princesses, and sometimes they also have 2 of Cinderella's mice as well. The setting's really beautiful because it's obviously supposed to be, I think the translation is Cinderella Inn. So it's kind of supposed to be her like living quarters, and you have like Gus and Jacques in like the decorative like stuff on the, is it cornices? I don't know what you call like plastering on walls, but they are very, very cute. And again, it was really nice because the interactions weren't rushed and the food was amazing. And something I was really impressed about when I was there, all of the princesses spoke French, English and Spanish, so that wherever table they went up to, they could interact with people, and I was so impressed that they knew so many languages. But that's definitely my favourite couch dining meal in Disneyland Paris. I really love Topolino's Terrace in Disney World, just because the interactions aren't rushed and it's really spacious. I know that's a weird thing to say, but because the tables are kind of set apart, it just feels more relaxed. It's not so hectic. I have been to Chef Mickey's, which is super popular because obviously it's right next to Magic Kingdom, and I thought that was good, but it was very much like a well-oiled machine. So it was kind of like, character comes in, you take your photo, they move on. Like, they knew what they were doing. So it's still fun, but it is a much more kind of quicker process. And in Disneyland, the only character dining meal I did there was Goofy Kitchen, and I would say the character interactions were amazing, and the food I had was really great. When I was there, the service wasn't that good, but it could have just been an off day. But they do also do something called, I think it's called the Storyteller Inn. Sorry, my battery's just about to run out. I'm just going to plug it in. But the Storyteller Inn is basically a character dining with princesses. It's very, very expensive, but I didn't do that one. I've heard good things about it. Again, it's more like a fine dining meal. Goofy Kitchen was a buffet, so it kind of depends what you're wanting to do, who you're wanting to meet. But I think Disney World's great because there's so many character dining meals. Another one I want to try, as well as Tusker House, on my next trip is Garden Grill. I have always wanted to eat there. It's inside Epcot. It's also a revolving restaurant, and you see into the Living with the Land ride, but you get Chip and Dale, you get to meet Mickey, so that looks super fun. So yes, if you have any character dining meals you would highly recommend, I know that we've had a recommendation for Hollywood and Vine, so that's definitely one to put onto the list, which is fantastic. But yes, Lucy, Blaze is so good, right? It's unreal. And for the price, it can't be beaten. So it's like a must-do every trip. It's so good. And yes, you cannot beat a bedtime popcorn treat. Like, and I love that there's lots of different varieties of popcorn now. Like, the popcorn's just gone crazy. It's so popular. The one place where the popcorn looks insane is Tokyo. The different flavours they have look unreal. So that looks like a popcorn destination. Yes, so this is a great question, Serena. I have done Space 220 in Epcot. What I did is I booked the lounge, because if you book the restaurant, at lunch it's a set 2-course menu, and at dinner it's a set 3-course menu. So you have to have them. You can't kind of pick and choose or just have one course. It's those set menus. And it was one of those where for me as a vegan, the options weren't worth the price. I think it's about $59 for lunch, $79 for dinner. But the great thing is, if you book the lounge, you can just go for drinks. They do have a lounge food menu with some kind of items. But when I was there, my server let me know anything that's on the main menu, you can order. So it's the one time where you can order a la carte. You don't have to have a set meal. So she was like, oh, the dessert here, the carrot cake, is vegan and it's supposed to be incredible. And I'd heard so many people recommend it. So I was like, okay, have an unexpected dessert. And it was so good. But the thing that's amazing about Space 220 is definitely visit, even if you just go for a drink, because not only when you see the photos and it's like the inside and you've got all of the windows that look out over space, and make sure you keep an eye out because you see Mickey float past at certain points, the whole thing is an experience. Like, when you first arrive, you check in and they give you a boarding pass so you can go into space, and then to get to the restaurant there's this like whole like lift that takes you into space. It's amazing. So definitely get a reservation if you can, because it's one of those really fun Disney experiences where it's not just like, oh, we've got a space themed bar. Like, it's a whole experience. So it's so good. But yeah, definitely get the lounge. I think the lounge gives you much more variety and like flexibility with what you want to order. So if you do love the options on the menu, of course, go for the restaurant. But that is another restaurant where the reservations will go very quickly, even the lounge. So definitely get that straight on the 60-day mark. But yes, I'm so glad to hear that you really recommend Garden Grill. It looks so fun, and I've heard the food's really great as well. And that's the thing, like sometimes you know with a character dining meal what you're paying for more is the characters, but when you get the ones where they combine amazing food and the characters, that's when you've hit the sweet spot. That's what you want. It's really great. Yes, exactly. You're so right. If you get the lounge, then you are getting your snacks, you're getting your drinks. You can just have a nice relaxing time, but getting to experience it, which is so fun. But for Disneyland Paris, my top restaurants are Manhattan, Downtown, Auberge de Cendrillon, Chez Remy for the great theming, obviously Toad Hall, Super Diner Casa de Coco, and I really do like Hakuna Matata. So if you do like more adventurous food or African flavours, that's a really, really great option. But I know it's not for everyone, so just be aware that the chakalaka is unreal. If you do like kind of like a stew, unreal, so good. And the restaurants I found, well, here's the thing, Disneyland, you can't go wrong. The food in Disneyland is unreal. I didn't have one thing that wasn't amazing, and it's really cheap compared to the other Disney parks. They don't have many table service restaurants. You'll be mostly eating quick service, but it's fantastic because there's so much variety, so many different cuisines, and such good prices. But my favourites were the Rontolas wrap. Let me tell you, that's probably the best thing I've ever eaten in any Disney park ever. It has so much hype around it, and it's worth everything. Like, it's unreal. I can't tell you how good this Rontolas wrap is. It's so flavourful. Like, I still dream about it now. And I'm like, I'm going to have to go all the way back to California just for this wrap. Like, it's crazy. But also, they have an amazing restaurant called Rancho del Zocalo, which is a Mexican restaurant. And when I was 18, I visited Disneyland just for one day. I was doing a big 10,000-mile road trip around the US. Went to Disneyland for just the day. Height of summer, really busy. But I so distinctly remember eating in a Mexican restaurant in Disneyland, and it was the best Mexican food I'd ever had in my life. So when I went back this time, I was like, I think this must be it. So I'm going to go and have it. And oh my God, it did not disappoint. Unbelievable flavour, like just bursting with flavour. And then they also had these amazing cinnamon crisps. And the churros in Disneyland are famous, not vegan. These cinnamon crisps were just like churros, and they were such, you get like a massive bag, they're like freshly made, and they were unreal. So like, definitely go to those two restaurants if you're there, because they're really, really good. I would say the worst restaurants, and again, I think it's subjective. It could just be that I didn't particularly like the food, but I've also included ones that typically people don't kind of recommend. Like, they're the ones that people are like, it's fine, but maybe it's not worth the kind of expense. But of course, in Walt Disney World, Akershus is one of them. It would be really interesting to see what it's like now. I just don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. Something that's interesting, maybe this is a rogue one, Be Our Guest. Purely because for the cost, you're kind of paying to be inside the amazing restaurant. But the food, people are kind of like, I don't know if it's worth the cost, because it is quite expensive to eat in there. I think it's about $79 for the set menu. It's 3 courses. I was very lucky to visit. When I visited in 2018, it used to be that breakfast and lunch were quick service and dinner was table service. So I managed to eat there twice, once for breakfast, once for lunch, and get to go inside. It's literally, I cried in a restaurant because it was so beautiful. It's absolutely wild. But when you go in and you're in that ballroom, it's amazing. It's something I really loved as well. It's on the ceiling where they have all the cherubs and stuff like that. The Imagineers who built the restaurant, it was either them as children or their own children that they painted as cherubs, and I couldn't cope. I was a wreck, and I was like, it's absolutely ridiculous to cry because the setting of a restaurant. But it is amazing. But the food, again, it's kind of like you either really, really like it or you don't. So it's one of those that maybe it doesn't live up to the price tag. And this is going to be a really controversial one, so strap in. Ohana. I don't know if it's worth the hype. I enjoyed my food there. I didn't think it was amazing. That being said, the breakfast at Ohana, absolutely loved. Couldn't get over that. But I was visiting as well when there was no characters. So it was only $25 for breakfast compared to now it's $49 or even might be $55. It's a lot more expensive now that the characters are back. The breakfast was amazing. The dinner I wasn't that impressed with. I felt like it was really overhyped. So that could get me in trouble because I know it is a beloved restaurant. But if you've eaten at home, let me know what you think. So I was just like, oh, it's not living up to the hype. It was good, but it's not the best. Oh, this is great to hear. The churro waffles you're desperate to try at Crystal Palace. That sounds amazing. A churro and a waffle in one. Literally incredible. And yes, the food in California is absolutely amazing. And I loved Lucky Fortune Cookery as well. I had some amazing noodles there and just everything is delicious. It's unbelievable. Like, it is a foodie paradise. Like, when they talk about it's just a foodie destination, people go just for the food. They are not joking. Like, everything is unreal. But yes, it's so sad, Serena, that they stopped breakfast at Be Our Guest because it was a really nice way to get to start your day in Magic Kingdom, inside the Beauty and the Beast castle. It was incredible. And I think even if they brought it back, but as a table service meal, I would probably go to that rather than the lunch or dinner. I'd be happy. I mean, I'm sure it would be expensive, but I'd be happy to go. Although, that being said, I think it depends on what's on offer. So, Cinderella Royal Table, for example, they do breakfast. So, if you are wanting kind of like the first thing you do in Magic Kingdom is to dine inside Cinderella Castle, that is an option. But it's a set menu, so it's like $42 For me, the vegan option is avocado toast. Now, I'm a millennial. It's my lifeblood. I love avocado toast. I had it this morning. I would never pay €42 for it. Not in this economy. It's not happening. Especially because if you go to Steakhouse 71 or not California Grill, if you go to Grand Floridian Cafe, which are just one monorail stop away, it's $13 for avocado toast. So it's one of those that you're definitely paying for the location, but I would say that lunch and dinner are better value for Cinderella's Royal Table. So if you want to dine there, definitely do those seatings. You get like a 3-course menu with the princesses. I think that's much better value. Oh, I'm so glad, Serena, that you also agree Ohana didn't live up to the hype. It's one of those things that everyone's like, you have to go, you have to go, you have to go. And I was so excited, and I was like, I loved that you got a little lei. I loved there was an ukulele player. The setting is incredible. But the food, I was just like, look, everyone's talking about the best noodles you've ever had in your life. And I was like, I don't see it. I don't see it. So I'm so glad that other people have experienced that. Yes, Stephen. Do you think when Tiana's Bayou Adventure opens in Disney World, are we going to get beignets in Magic Kingdom? I have my fingers crossed. By the way, it's just started raining very, very hard. Do let me know if the audio, I can go and shut my little conservatory door. If you can't hear me over the rain, do let me know, because all of a sudden it's gone tropical. But yes, $42 for avocado toast is wild. Like, I don't know how they're getting away with it. And I think they even have stuff like a fruit bowl. And I'm like, how is that possible? And I know you're meeting the princesses, but I'm like, have they hand-picked the avocado and then brought it back? And like, what's going on for that price? It's crazy. That's very interesting that you've mentioned a lot of people slate Pinocchio Village House, because that was one of the restaurants I was going to bring up. It's one that I've heard a lot of people not really enjoy. But I'm so glad to hear that you love it. And I think that's the thing. Another restaurant in Magic Kingdom that is kind of divisive is Cosmic Rays. I hear loads of people really dislike it and other people that love it. And I think what's great about those restaurants is that they are serving foods that everyone likes, like burgers and pizzas. So if you are looking for a theme park there, they can be really... Oh, there's a cat. There's a cat coming. Say hi, Coco. She just said no, but she meant hello. But yeah, I think it's so interesting to hear that people have such different experiences, and I'm really glad to hear that you really like it. Oh, sorry, the cat. You can stay with that, Coco. That's a good idea. But yes, Lucy, you're so right. They did briefly have beignets in Magic Kingdom for a limited time, but I'm hoping... I mean, there are rumours that Pecco Bills is going to be rethemed to Princess and the Frog. So we could see some beignets. I really hope if they do it, they have vegan beignets, because as I say, at Port Orleans, you can get vegan beignets. But I know when I was in Disneyland, I went to Tiana's Palace, which I really enjoyed, and they had beignets, but no vegan options. So I'm really hoping Magic Kingdom, if they do, they have some vegan ones, because who does not want to have vegan beignets overlooking Tiana's Bayou Adventure? Like, it would be next level. But yeah, I'm so glad to hear, Stephen, like, you've really enjoyed the food at Cosmic Rays. So I think it's that thing, it's like so hit or miss, and they've got a really nice like vegan option. It's kind of like a burger type thing, which looks really nice, and I'm kind of like, maybe I should go, because it looks fun. And of course, I've got to go and see the top guy. Although I've heard his animatronic isn't working, so I'm like, please bring him back. We need to have our entertainment, because he's the star of the show there, which is so good. Yes, you're so right. Like, we better be getting beignets and New Orleans inspired food inside Magic Kingdom. It'll be next level, and I really liked. I had the gumbo at Tiana's Palace, and it was one of those things that when I first tasted it, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this or not. But the more you ate it, the more flavour come through, and I loved it in the end. So I would love to see that, and also just New Orleans food and Creole food. Incredible, so much flavour, so interesting. I think it would be a really good option. And yeah, Pecco Bills is another one that's really divisive. I had a veggie rice bowl there, which I liked. It was kind of a plain option, but it wasn't bad. But I think this is the thing about Magic Kingdom, the food's either very good or very bad. There's no in between, and it's really hit or miss. So it would be great if they had like a New Orleans themed restaurant, amazing food, and everyone enjoys it. Like, that would be next level. So fingers crossed for that, because I can't wait. I'm so excited for Tiana's Bayou Adventure in general, but if they kind of add that theming into that part of the land, it will be amazing. But yes, you haven't tried the beignets yet, Serena. They're definitely worth getting. They're so good, so much flavour, like, just so good. Like, fresh donuts with powdered sugar on, can't go wrong. But yeah, so one of my other, we've kind of touched upon the like worst restaurants in Disney World as typically kind of being seen as Pinocchio's Village House, Cosmic Rays, other places that I don't know if they're necessarily bad, but no one ever talks about them, are Katsura Grill and Lotus Blossom Cafe in Epcot. I've never ever heard anyone mention either of those. I've never heard anyone eat at them. There's obviously people eating at them, but I've never heard anyone mention them, so I don't know if that means they're not good, or if it's just that there's so many options that people are eating other places. Pete Safari in Animal Kingdom, I've not heard great things about. Same with Pizza Rizzo in Hollywood Studios. But it seems to be, I think it's one of those hit or miss things. Like, sometimes you're going to have great food there, sometimes you won't. But they sell kind of, because they've got like pizza and pasta, it's stuff that typically most people will like. But maybe because of that, they don't put loads of effort in. They're like, people just like this, just do whatever. So let us know. Oh, I love that, Stephen. You try everything Mickey shaped, like 1,000,000%. Things that are Mickey shaped 100% taste better, and the pretzel is next level. It's so good. It's really interesting to hear that you say the quick service in Epcot is really good for the Chinese food. So I'm glad to hear someone has eaten there and it is good to have, which is amazing. Oh, that's a good point. They do have Nutella beignets at Disneyland Paris. So that's always really, really interesting to hear. And I know people have said they're really delicious, which is amazing. Lucy, you're 100% right. Regal Eagle in Epcot is unreal for quick service food. Like, the barbecue food there is amazing. It's like, and that's the thing, like, if you're looking for burgers, there's loads of places that serve burgers, but they are like next level amazing. So if you're getting a burger in Disney World, make sure it's from Regal Eagle, because it's unbelievably good. Oh, interesting, Serena, you don't like sci-fi dining theatre. I had a really good experience there, and I was kind of worried because I went there as a child and I just remember the amazing setting and being sat in the car and the kind of drive-through. And then I was like, oh, I want to go back, because again, the table service meals, there aren't many table service restaurants in Hollywood Studios. There's not many to pick from. So I was like, let's try it again. And I really enjoyed my food there. But again, it's one that I hear people, it's either they really liked it or they didn't. So it's hard to know. And that's why I always think it's, if you've looked at a menu and you think, do you know what, I think I would like that, or I really want to try that experience, then it's definitely worth it, because you never know. Like, you might be one of the people that absolutely loves it. But yes, the milkshakes in the sci-fi are legendary, and people always rave about them. So if you're getting a milk there, definitely get one of the milkshakes. And they also have a vegan cookie milkshake, which is amazing. So even vegans get to be part of the milkshake experience, which I absolutely love. And yeah, I'm glad that you said that you love Mama Melrose, because that's the thing. Like, you kind of have those are like the three big ones, like Sci-Fi Dine-In, Mama Melrose, and 50s Primetime Cafe. And I've never been to Mama Melrose, and it's one of those that I'm like, oh, that sounds good, and the food again sounds really interesting. You can do like a dining package with it, which is amazing. 50s Dine-In I loved, but I was so excited for the interaction. And then I think because she saw we were English, I think she was like, oh, do they know that it's kind of like you come in and they shout at you? So she didn't really go in on us, whereas I was so excited for it. Whereas ironically, the table next to us were American people, but I don't think they knew. And they were furious. And I was like, oh, just come to us, I want to play along. But although I have to say, I haven't been to 50s Primetime as a vegan, because I don't think the vegan options there are very good. But Mama Melrose has like a really interesting main, so that's definitely one I should put on my list. So I'm glad to hear it's amazing. But yes, Lucy, like you say, Tony's Town Square, that's something you really, really enjoy. And again, you can't go wrong with Italian food. And I love that it's Lady and the Tramp themed, because you don't really see much of that in the parks. So again, it's totally down to like personal experience. Because some people absolutely love it. Like, I hear people say stuff and they're like, oh, I don't like Sanaa. And I'm like, on what planet are you living on? Like, it's insane to me that anyone could think that. Hi guys, love to see you. Thank you so much for joining. But yes, it's interesting, isn't it, to have like certain foods that are just, you go and you're like, this one was not for me, but all of the other food has been good. So I'm sorry to hear that, Stephen. I know, who doesn't like Sanaa? They should be trespassed. That should be sacrilege. It's amazing. But I thought I'd also mention some of the restaurants at Disneyland Paris that aren't super like highly rated. Obviously Silver Spur Steakhouse. I've always liked the vegan food, but from non-vegans it's typically not very highly regarded. Doesn't get great reviews. Captain Jack's, again, just because it's a bit hit or miss. If you really like Caribbean style food, you might enjoy it. If you don't like that type of food, it's probably not going to be for you. There's also a lot of fish, stuff like that, so if you're not into it, you've got all your big ones like Cafe Hyperion, Restaurant on Calais, these ones that are kind of the big burger places, but they're just not great quality. They're not always so great. And as I've said, if you have dietary requirements, the buffets aren't always good in Disneyland Paris for catering for you, but that's just a personal thing. And Disneyland, I didn't really find any places that were bad. Admittedly, I didn't have enough time to try everywhere. But I would say one that pops up a lot is Alien Pizza Planet, just because it's a bit basic. And they're like, there's so many amazing restaurants, go to the other ones. And something that I found was Bengal barbecue. The food was nice, but it was not worth the price at all. And basically there you get skewers. You can either choose vegetable ones or meat ones. And if you have the meal option, you get 2 skewers and rice and like a coleslaw type thing. But it was like $19. It was really expensive for quick service. Like most of the quick service meals are about $12, $14. So it was way more expensive and it just wasn't worth it. But what you can do is buy 1 skewer on its own for $6. And I would totally recommend that as a snack. So instead of getting a meal there, just get it as a snack. But yeah, that would be so good. But this is a great question from Christina. It's the best and worst places for vegans in Disney. And I'm assuming this is about Disneyland Paris. But I thought I'd cover a few of the places. But of course, the best, total obsessed, go every trip. It's really funny. You'll see it in the upcoming vlog series. There were a family who were all vegan, who happened to be there at the same time. And they'd seen on social media that I was actually in the park, and they were like, oh, I wonder if we'll bump into her, because Disneyland's quite small, totally easy to happen. And it was around dinner time, And just after dinner, they bumped into me and they were like, oh, we went to Toad Hall because we thought you'd be there, which was facts, but it was shut because it shuts at 5 o'clock. So they were like, oh, so then we thought you would be at Casa de Coco, and we met near Casa de Coco. And I was like, I love that I'm that predictable, because they are my two like go-to places in Disneyland Park. But yes, Burgess and Drilling was also amazing for vegans. They had the most amazing, like, it was like a chocolate lava cake with cherries as a dessert, and it was unreal. It was so good. Manhattan, and of course Super Diner. Obsessed with Super Diner, cannot recommend it enough. Those shawarmas are next level. And obviously the worst, I would say, are any of the buffets, but particularly Pim Kitchen. I will forever hold a grudge against Pim Kitchen. But then also I would say places like Casey's Corner, Cafe Hyperion, stuff like that, because the food itself, the vegan options are labelled as plant-based, so the ingredients are all vegan, but because they're cooked on a shared grill, there's cross-contamination, so they don't label them as vegan. So it's worthwhile noting that, because that does then knock out quite a lot of the restaurants if cross-contamination is a concern for you. Any of the places that serve hot dogs or burgers that are plant-based aren't going to be an option for you, so just be aware of that. And in Disney World, I've put the best for vegans are places like Sebastian's Bistro, Sartuli Canteen, Sanar, Ronto Roasters. In fact, any restaurant in Animal Kingdom Lodge itself, unreal, all really, really good. And there's no real worst places, I think, in Disney World. I think it's just down to personal preference. So it could be stuff like, if you aren't really fan of like vegan cheese, for example, you might not want to go to Pinocchio Village House because it's a vegan cheese pizza. So it's just that I've never had a meal apart from Akershus where I've been like, oh, I wouldn't have that again. So that's good news. You can kind of eat anywhere in Disney World, which is so good. Oh, this is really interesting, Stephen, to hear about your Plaza Garden experience. And it's so true. Plaza Garden is a very expensive buffet. It is a character dining meal in Disneyland Paris, which is kind of what you're paying for, but it's about 80 euros. So again, it's interesting in Disneyland Paris where the food is kind of notoriously not that great, but the prices for the buffets are unreal. So in Disney World, the top price buffet is going to be $60. Plaza Gardens in Disneyland Paris, 80 euro. If you go to Royal Banquet, 100 euros. It's very interesting to hear the price because it's wild. But it's really interesting to hear you didn't think the food was worth the price. And yeah, that's the thing. Oh my god, yes, Stephen, you're so right. The chip van in Walt Disney Studios Park is like the stuff of legends, because you get chips and dips, great for snacks, but they're also vegan and gluten-free. So basically everyone can go to this chip van and it's really good. So that's definitely worth going to. But yes, Lucy, you're so right. Toad Hall is amazing. For a quick service restaurant, the food is always so good. And I also love the interior. It's so cute, and it's all like an old style English pub, and you have loads of like Mr. Toad references, and so cute. So whenever I go, I always go, but it shuts early. It shuts at like 5. So make sure you kind of go for lunchtime, otherwise you miss out. Or if you will eat at like 4 o'clock, do it. But I wish it would stay open later. It's just such a shame. Yes, I'm so glad that you got to visit Serena and your nan loved it too. That's so nice. It's lovely when you go somewhere and everyone in the family enjoys it. They're like, this is the one. This is the one. But I've had a great question from Happy Veggie Family, which is like, are there any new vegan things you're going to try? So when I went to Disneyland Paris this time, unfortunately not. The only two, well, there were actually 3 new restaurants. The 2 in the Disneyland Hotel, which I kind of skipped over because of the price, and also I wasn't staying at the Disneyland Hotel, so I couldn't eat at the Table de Lumiere. But you've also got Restaurant Rosalie. That's just opened. Very French heavy menu. So if you are looking for something authentically French in the Disney Village, this can be a really, really good option. There is something on the menu that's marked as vegan. I'm always cautious because France is one of those countries where veganism is emerging, but because of that, people don't always necessarily know what vegan means. So sometimes they'll put fish in something, or they're like, if it's like goat's cheese, then it's vegan because it's not cow, and it's like this weird things that people have come up with. So they're not 100% sure. So it's one of those, if I went, I would look at the allergy menu just to double check what's in that option. because I'm not 100% confident that it would be vegan, but it's one of those restaurants, again, that have been really hit or miss. If you really love French cuisine, people have said it's great, but if you're not a big fan, like, of escargot and stuff like that, they're like, okay, skip over this. So it's nice there are new options in Disney Village, but I didn't try that. But that being said, Disney World, there are so many new restaurants since my last trip. I am so excited we're going to do the Roundup Rodeo Barbecue meetup. That was still being built when I was there last time. Cannot wait for that. The fact that it's all Toy Story themed looks incredible. That's going to be amazing. I really want to go to Eat, which is in Disney Springs. It's a new Indian restaurant. That sounds absolutely incredible. Shiki Sai in Epcot, desperate to visit. It's kind of like Japanese tapas style food, like about 12 different vegan options. Unreal. It looks so good. So there's so many restaurants, and fingers crossed we'll have some sort of like Tiana's Palace type restaurant, because that would be next level as well. But yeah, in Disney World, loads of new places to try, which I cannot wait for. Oh, I'm so glad that you loved Rosalie, Stephen, and yeah, it's great to hear that you've had a good experience, because as I say, I haven't eaten there, so it's lovely to hear what other people thought, and it's really nice that you loved the service and the atmosphere there, because that makes such a big part of the experience when you're dining, so that's so good. Yes, it's very interesting, like, veganism is not often understood all around the world, so like sometimes it's like, if it doesn't have meat, but it's got fish in, then that's probably vegan, or there's a lot of weird things people think. So that's why you always have to be super careful, because you never quite know what you're being served. But yes, Anne, you definitely have to come to the meetup. It will be amazing to meet you in person. I would love that. I love that we're all going in September. I love that it's just by chance lots of people there in September, so it's going to be so much fun. I think I'll do a few meetups. So the Roundup one we know is going to happen, but I'm sure there'll be others as well, maybe for like rides or like a fireworks show or something like that. That'll be amazing. Oh, thank you so much, Guy. So the thing that's been amazing is I've been working with Guy to help him plan his Disney World trip this May, and it's been such a joy. I've been so excited to get to kind of help plan what things to do, and we've just booked all of the dining. We've got everything we wanted. We're hoping for our Ohana breakfast. That would be amazing, but it literally is going to be an incredible service. So it's so nice for you to share your experience. And yes, it's so handy. Like, I think that's the nice thing about the booking the dining, particularly for Disney World, can feel very stressful, because it's that pressure of, at the 60-day mark, things are going to go in minutes. They will go so quickly. So if you don't have a strategy in place, or even say you're at work or something like that and you're not free exactly at 11 a.m. when the reservations open up, it can be missing out on dining. So that's why it's been so nice to kind of work with Guy. So I love, it's like my Olympics, guys. I have trained for years. I absolutely love the rush of it. I get so excited getting the reservations. So it's been so nice to kind of be able to do that, and that is a service I am offering. So basically, Most Magical Guys this year is expanding massively, so it's not just going to be YouTube videos with tips and advice. I'm also selling planning templates. I'm going to be having this kind of like concierge service, so you can do either, if you've got just a few questions of how to maximize your trip, or I don't quite know how to do this or use that, you could just do a Zoom call. So I'm going to have a 40-minute option just to answer any questions you have. There's going to be a 90-minute option where if you'd like more detail, kind of like maybe how do you go about booking, how do you get the best prices, what would be a good strategy, I can help you. And then there's the service that I've been doing with Guy, where I kind of find out what type of trip you want. I've planned an itinerary, booked the dining, stuff like that. So that's been amazing. And then there'll be like add-ons. So anyone can have their dining booked for them. If you're not going to be free, or it's just overwhelming or a bit stressful, I can get that all done for you. So it's very exciting. And later in the year, I'm very excited, I'm going to be doing masterclasses. So it's going to be like a 3-hour Zoom masterclass, and it will be themed around like Disney World, Disneyland Paris and Disneyland, and it will be step by step of how to book, but also tips and advice to help you maximize your trip, because they're kind of destinations that if you turn up you can have a good time, but if you really want to have the best experience and have the most magical trip, you need all those tips and advice. So it's going to be 3 hours put all of those decades of experience that I've had, condense them so that in 3 hours you're going to know how to have the best trip ever. So I'm so excited for all the things that are happening this year for Most Magical Guide. So very exciting. So if any of those things are interesting, do let me know. But yes, you're so right, Guy. Like, the planning part of it is part of the excitement of the trip. But when it comes to like the actual booking and stuff like that, it can be so stressful. So it's nice that you still get to be involved in all of your planning and being like, this is the type of trip we want, but then knowing someone else can go and make it all happen, and you don't have that pressure. You don't have that time limit of I've got to be available at this time on this date, which is fantastic. So it's been so much fun. Oh my God, I'm so glad we're talking about this, that you've said Gideon's Bakehouse is overrated. And I think it is. I just can't. I mean, obviously I haven't tried the cookies because they're not vegan, but I can't see how any cookie is worth a 3-hour wait, guys. I can't. And I'm desperate to try their coffee. The peanut butter cold brew sounds amazing. I'm not waiting 3 hours for a coffee. I'm not waiting 3 hours for anything. I don't wait for 3 hours for anything in Disney World. I'm not waiting for a ride for 3 hours. Definitely not waiting for a coffee. And yeah, I think it's time we kind of talk about Gideon's being overrated because I think it probably is. And it's interesting that if you have a car, there's another Gideon's bakery that's maybe a 15-minute drive away. There's never a queue. You can just get a cookie. Whereas if you go to Disney Springs, there's hours upon hours of waiting. And I'm like, it can't be that good. Can it? Can it really be that good? I don't know. Oh, hi Stefan! I'm so excited. I've been loving watching your vlogs. It's been so exciting watching you and Stephen at Disneyland Paris. So thank you so much for saying hello. It's so nice to see you all here today. Well, not, you know, see your comments. I wish we could do like an actual face-to-face, which is why I think the Zoom's going to be so nice, where you can kind of actually interact in like kind of person, face-to-face, which is so good. Yes, Guy, you're so right. The one-on-one chats are so nice because you get that kind of personalised experience, because it's like the things that you want to do specific to your trip, you can get the answers for exactly there and then, which is fantastic, because you kind of get generic answers, but when you want to know specifically for your trip, it's so handy to have the one-on-one chats, and it's just so much fun getting to chat and get all excited about trips together, which is amazing. But yes, you are so right. Booking tables can be like a full-time job, because you've got to have a strategy, you've got to have a plan, you've got to go in, you've got to be ready. It's like military precision planning. And because I've kind of made it a fine art, I've always managed to get the table reservations I've wanted. I've never, ever gone without. There's never one I've had to miss out on. So if you're worried about it, definitely contact me, because it's something I can absolutely help you with. Yes, this is such a great question. Do I think that the dining and merchandise credit offer will return in 2025 now that the dining plan has returned? So I think it's going to be really interesting to see. So it's normally April time they'll announce the offer, and then you can book it end of April, beginning of May. The past couple of years, you've had the dining credit and merchandise offer, whereas pre-pandemic, you used to have the full dining plan was the offer. Now, in an ideal world, it would be incredible if the incentive for 2025 was the full dining plan again. I know that they did have an offer for US guests that had Disney Plus, where they could get a free dining plan if they booked. So that does look like it could be on the cards, but I think if they don't do the full dining offer, I definitely think they will be doing the dining credits again. But I really hope that they do the full dining plan. Now that it's back, it would be amazing. But someone did actually have a great question about, do I ever do the dining plan in Disneyland Paris, Disney World? And when I've had the free dining plan, I've done it at Disney World. But I would say for the dining plan to work, in Disney World itself, you need to be ordering the most expensive thing on the menu. You need to be ordering alcoholic drinks. And you need to be getting the most expensive snacks to make it work out financially if you're going to pay out of pocket for it. So someone like me, don't really drink, and the vegan options are normally cheaper, you'd be paying over the odds for it. Also, it can be a lot of food. So if you don't fancy eating a lot of food every single day, it's maybe not worth it. Disneyland Paris, again, I think it depends on the type of way you want to visit Disneyland Paris. If you want to do a lot of table service meals and order the most expensive things on the menu, then it can be a good option. The one thing I would say is the breakfasts, I think, are very overpriced, and that's part of what you're paying for if you get the dining plan in Disneyland Paris. So I never get it because there's very few vegan breakfast options. It's not worth it. If you're a vegan, don't get the dining plan in Disneyland Paris. It's not worth it. And I worked out that I save so much money by not doing the dining plan. So it just works out of how you personally like to dine. And I also would say, if you are going to get the dining plan at Disneyland Paris, book your restaurants as soon as you book. You can book up to a year in advance if you're staying at Disneyland Paris hotel, because the table service restaurants sell out very quickly. So if you buy the dining plan and you don't book, there's every chance that you won't be able to use the dining service credits, and you'll have to switch to quick service, and then of course you're not getting your money's worth. So if you are going to do it, make sure you get those table service reservations as soon as you can. Yes, I'm so glad to hear that Gideon's cold brew is amazing, but I'm just like, I don't know if I can wait 3 hours. Maybe one time, because I like to go to the cinema. So I'm like, maybe I should get there early, go to Gideon's, get in the 3-hour virtual queue, then go to the cinema. And then once the film's finished, look around some shops and then get the drink, because it does sound amazing. But I'm like, I can't wait 3 hours for a coffee, surely. Is anything worth a 3-hour wait in life? Just anything at all. But yes, you're so right, Serena. Like, the dining plan, if it comes back to Disney World, it's incredible because you save so much money. When I went in 2018, I actually kept all of my receipts so that we could see how much the meals would have cost us if we didn't have the free dining plan. And over 14 days, our dining and snacks and drinks came to over $2,000. So incredible value, incredible savings. And like you say, if you're visiting with a family, it cuts the cost down so much. So it would be amazing if that comes back, because it's such a brilliant deal for UK visitors. Oh, it's very interesting that you're saying they're teasing the offers for travel agents already. And you're 100% right. With Epic Universe putting more and more kind of promo out, and that coming soon, and Universal really putting the fire under Disney, let's hope that they're going to go, we need people coming in 2025, let's give them a great offer and get them to come to Disney World and stay at Disney World instead of switching to Universal. So you are 100% right. And this is something that's really interesting. There's a YouTube channel called Journeys with Jin and Mike. They are a couple based in the US and California. They go to Disneyland a lot and also Disney World. They do amazing vlogs, and we've kind of become friends over the time. And we were talking recently about, we wanted to do something together. So something else I'm doing with Most Magical Guys is I'm hoping to launch a podcast this year, but I'm also going to be doing it where you can watch it on YouTube. You don't just have to listen. And I think me and Jin are going to do one, and we were actually going to be talking about, the topic we want to talk about is the future of Disney. What's going to happen in regards to Disney with all of these amazing developments from Universal, because of course Epic Universe looks incredibly epic. They're also building a family theme park in Texas. They've bought Port Aventura in Spain. We're getting one in the UK. We're getting a Universal theme park. So it's a very interesting time for Disney. So I hope you're right that because of that, we're going to be getting a fantastic 2025 offer from Disney World, which I'm so excited for. Is anyone planning on going in 2025? And you're just sitting waiting for the offer to be released, because that's what I'm doing. I'm just like, let's see what they're going to give us. So hopefully in the next few weeks we're going to find out. Oh, interesting, Anne, that there's only a 30-minute wait if you go midweek to Gideon's. So maybe that's the thing, midweek, midday-ish. Head there then. That's the trick. You can get there. Hiya! Thank you so much for joining us. And yes, I'm so excited for a podcast. And the aim that I would like to do is that every episode is a different guest, and we can talk about one specific topic. So it could be about planning or stuff like that. And it'll be really handy for things that I have gaps in knowledge about. So say stuff like the cruise line or the Asian park, stuff like that. It'd be great to have guests that know about those, and we can talk about their experiences, and then just also things that we want to share and give people tips and advice for. So I'm very, very excited for this. I think it should be so much fun. But yes, if you have any topics you'd like to see, or if there's anyone you'd like as a guest, or if you want to be a guest, then do let me know, because it'll be fantastic. And yes, I'm so glad so many of us are planning for 2025. We're just waiting. We're all being patient and waiting for the offer to be released. But yeah, I think it's going to be amazing. So I can't wait to see. Yes, and it's so interesting, Guy, like you say, because 2025 could be interesting, because if a lot of people switch to Universal, Disney could see a dip in attendance. On the flip side, it could also massively increase the attendance, because if people are going out to Florida, they're going to want to do Universal and Disney World. So it's always handy, like, whenever something new comes to the parks, it definitely benefits both of them, because if people are there, they want to go to both the parks. And Universal is one of those places that, of course, now that you've got 3 parks and a water park there, you're going to need more days there than you have before. But it's still not somewhere you could do 14 days in. So I think Disney would definitely benefit from Epic Universe opening. But it will be interesting to see, because I think a lot of people will choose to stay at the Universal hotels. We're also getting new hotels because of Epic Universe. So yeah, I'm so excited for it. It looks amazing. Yes, exactly, Serena. You're 100% right. Like, you're perfect for knowing how to plan trips with kids, because a child-free millennial, no clue. So that would be fantastic if you want to come and be a guest on the podcast. I know me and Guy have talked about him being a guest, so I'm so excited, because I think it's going to be amazing, and there's just so many topics to discuss. And I think that's the thing, like, my aim, the thing I've always wanted to do with my special guides, is give people as much tips and advice so they can maximise their trips, because this is one of those destinations you can't really turn up to and hope for the best. And it's such a shame, because if people don't have access to the information, or they don't have time to do hundreds of hours of research, or they do the research but there's conflicting advice, it's so difficult. So my aim has always been to get as much tips and advice out of there so people can maximise their trip. So I think a podcast is going to be fantastic to do that, because all of the gaps in my knowledge, you're going to be able to find people who have that information and then spread all of their amazing tips too. Oh, it's so exciting. So you're not visiting this year, but you're planning an ultimate Disney World and Universal trip, which will be incredible. What does your ultimate trip look like? I would love to know, because I get very excited hearing about people's trips. And yes, like you say, if they bring back the full dining plan, Disney World, that would be epic. Because yeah, they're going to need to do something to kind of draw people in away from Epic Universe and the new hotels and everything. So can't wait to hear what it's going to be. But yeah, I've got a few more questions, so we'll pop back to these, but please keep writing your comments and questions, because I love reading them. That's the most fun about the live streams, is the interactive part, so loving that. But I've got a good question here about dietary requirements, and they say, will Disneyland Paris chefs make something for dietary requirements at table service restaurants if there's nothing on the menu that people like they do in Disney World? And the unfortunate answer is no. Disneyland Paris won't typically make many accommodations at all. They will have options, so they will let you see the allergy menu to see what dishes could be suitable for you. Outside of that, they're definitely not going out their way to make meals specifically for you, which they do in the US parks, which is so fantastic. So if you are going to a table service meal and maybe there's something you like, but there's elements you don't enjoy or you can't eat, they can modify it for you. Or if there's nothing you like at all, often they will make a dish specifically for you, which is amazing. But unfortunately, Disneyland Paris is quite far behind. They are getting better with dietary requirements, but they're still very much like, they will do the bare minimum to accommodate you. And something they do have is, if you have lots of different dietary requirements, they do have these microwave meals that are free from the top 14 allergens. Now, I've never had one, but I've heard that they're dreadful. I've heard they're really, really not good. So if you can avoid that, I would. But if you go to a table service meal and there's nothing you really fancy, I think that is what they will offer you. So I would avoid that if you can, and try and look at the menus in advance, or go on Facebook groups. So there's a really great like gluten-free group, stuff like that, so you can find where the best dishes are. And I hope over time they'll improve. I think it's just a cultural thing, because Disneyland Paris is now owned by Disney, so I would hope they would start moving towards the Disney standard that you get in the US parks. And as I say, I think culturally, like France, they're not like super aware of like veganism, So that's not great. And like, I think dietary requirements, they don't cater for so well. So hopefully they'll start increasing that over time. But the US parks are above and beyond. If you have any sort of dietary requirement, they will go out of their way to accommodate you. They even have a special diets team that you can email in advance. So if there's a restaurant you want to eat in, you can ask them, is there something I can eat? Could they make something for me? And they will have all the information for you, which is fantastic. So yeah, the Disney World are next level. So if you're going to Disney World with any sort of dietary requirements, you will be catered for. And it's really handy for people that have multiple dietary requirements, because they're going to go above and beyond to give you a great experience. Oh, your trip sounds amazing. A week at Universal and then 3 weeks at Disney World. That would be absolutely epic. And yeah, it's so nice, because then you're getting the best of both worlds. And I think something that would be interesting to talk about on the podcast is that, particularly people from the UK, when we visit Disney World, typically most people do 14 days, maybe 10 days, something like that. At the moment, you can make that work, because people will do 1 or 2 days in Universal, the rest of the time at Disney World. But with Epic Universe opening, people are going to need more days at Universal. So it means people are either going to have to do longer trips or less time at Disney. So that will be really interesting to see as well, like how that's going to work. So yes, it'll be so good. But yeah, to have the like full out amazing Orlando experience, that sounds absolutely epic. A month to explore everything will be amazing. Yes, you are so right. I think the food at Disneyland Paris is something that lets it down massively, because as you say, a lot of it is pre-cooked off-site, frozen, brought in and reheated. So it's that thing like I was mentioning earlier, that instead of it being chefs at Disneyland Paris, a lot of it's just cooks, because essentially they're just reheating food. And that's also why the food isn't that great. And it's such a shame, because France is a country that's so passionate about their cuisine and their food. And Disneyland Paris could absolutely make themselves like a foodie destination. And they're like, no. And that's the thing. Like, obviously as a vegan, you have less options. But even people who aren't vegan, I hear a lot of times the number one kind of complaint is the food isn't that great. So it's such a shame. So fingers crossed it will improve over time. And I think they are slowly getting there. But it's definitely an area I think that they could massively improve upon. Yes, you're so right. If you have a longer period in Florida, you're not having to rush, which is fantastic. And my last trip, I did 3 weeks there, and it was so nice, because I did 14 days in Disney World. Then I did 3 days at Animal Kingdom Lodge, where I just relaxed, didn't leave the resort, just experienced everything there. And then I moved over to Universal. Of course, it didn't go quite to plan, because there was a hurricane. So everything was shut for 3 days. But it was just such a nice way to kind of relax and end the trip, because when I was in Universal, because the weather, people kind of knew a hurricane could be coming, attendance was very low. So the one day I got in Universal, I got to do so much, because the parks were so quiet. And yeah, just being able to not rush and be able to take more breaks, and your body feels better for it. Like, it's the way forward. So no, Serena, I didn't try Restaurant Rosalie during my trip, and that's just because the vegan option there, I'm not 100% convinced it is vegan. And it didn't sound great, but I have heard great things from other people, so it's definitely worth it. If you like French food, I think it's amazing. I think Stephen said he'd eaten there, really enjoyed it. So if you are thinking of trying, I'd love to hear what you think as well. Something that is really handy I want to touch upon is mobile ordering. Christina asked, do all quick service restaurants have mobile ordering, and how easy is it to use? So I would say not all of the quick service restaurants have mobile ordering, but most of them now do. And it is 100% worth doing. It saves so much time, and you can actually order any time of the day. So if you know in the morning, like, do you know what, I think we want to eat at Woody's Lunchbox around 1 o'clock, you can order in the morning and then make it part of your day that you know you're going to be in that area around that time. Because I would say the popular quick service restaurants, their time slots can go very quickly. So even though you're mobile ordering, sometimes it could be a 2 or 3 hour wait if you're wanting to eat at the peak times, and you're booking, like, say you at like 12 o'clock you suddenly decide to go to Woody's Lunchbox, you might not be able to eat until 3. So booking early in the day can be really handy, but I would say a lot of the quick service restaurants, that's not the case. Most of them you can order and you will eat in like 15-20 minutes, which is fantastic, but you save so much time and it's so easy to use. You just need the app. You then select the restaurant, the food, the time slot, and you're all good to go. I recently tried mobile ordering in Disneyland Paris, and again, super easy to use. You could also add your annual pass discount at the time if you have annual passes, which is fantastic. The only difference I would say is that in Disney World and Disneyland, you do everything in the app, and the app notifies you like, oh, your time slot's coming up, head to the restaurant, and then it reminds you to click here. So you click, you're there, they make the reservation, the food for you fresh. Disneyland Paris, how they do it is you order in the app, and then they send you an email to you. From that email, you then have to say, I'm here. You click on the link, it takes you to a page, then click on I'm here again, and then they know you're here. But I was expecting it to all be in the app, like at the other park. So I turned up to the restaurant at the time slot I'd selected, and I was like, oh, I don't really know what to do. And they were like, oh no, you need to go into your email, and you could do it that way. But it definitely saves a lot of time. I did it at Casa de Coco, and I've previously waited 45 minutes for food there. And we literally went on the app. The next available slot was in 10 minutes time. So we got off of Pirates, ordered, and by the time we got there, we could pick our food up, which was fantastic. So it's definitely worth doing. Saves so much time. I would also say in the US parks, if you've got a credit card or a card saved to your account, it will use that. You can also use your dining credits if you have that, which is perfect. What I did is I put the dining credits in my notes in my phone, so I could just easily copy and paste that in. But Disneyland Paris, every time you use it, you have to type in your card details, even if you have it saved on your account. So just be aware of that. But yeah, so quick and easy. So highly recommend mobile ordering because it saves you so much time. Yes, you're so right, Lucy. Mobile ordering is a lifesaver because it's just, you're not wasting time in queues, you're not standing there for ages. It's just quick, simple, it's amazing. But yes, Serena, you're so right that the prices at Disneyland Paris have gone crazy. I don't know if it's because it's the Olympic year, so because they're expecting a lot of people to be coming, and obviously you've got the opening of the Disneyland Hotel, that's why the prices have shot up, but they have gone up a lot. You can still find good deals if you go in the off season. So like I've booked to visit in January next year, and we got a really great price for Newport Bay. It was like, I think it was £380 per person for 3 nights, 4 days with park tickets at Newport Bay, which is great. But if you're needing to go in school holidays, stuff like that, it's so expensive at the moment. And the one thing I would say with our March trip is that there are so many construction walls, not just in Walt Disney Studios Park, but also in Disney Village and in Disneyland itself. Plus a lot of rides were down for maintenance. And I don't think they've advertised it enough, because obviously I watch a lot of vlogs and follow a lot of groups like DLP Report. I knew what it was going to be like. And because my annual pass was running out, I was like, do you know what? We need to go then. We can't really postpone it. Let's just go. And it was okay. Because I visit quite frequently, it wasn't such a problem. However, I think people who had their once in a lifetime trip, or maybe they only go like every 5 or 10 years, I think it would have really been detrimental to your experience, because so much was closed. And like when you're just walking in, you're just not getting the Disney experience because of the construction walls. I don't know if they're doing so much construction now, so it's out of the way for the Olympics. But we also know like Disney Village is going to take years to be fully renovated. The construction in Walt Disney Studios Park, because it's going to be more at the back of the park, that shouldn't be such a problem. So I'm hoping the construction walls that are inside the park at the moment will be gone before the Olympics. But like you said, with the increase in prices, but then you're getting like all the construction walls, I'm kind of like, I don't know who's making these decisions, but it's not a great combination, I don't think, at the moment. But yes, you're 100% right. Downtown restaurant is very hard to book. It goes almost immediately as soon as it goes online. So what I would say is, if you stay at Disneyland Hotel, you can book your dining up to 12 months in advance. So I would do it as soon as you book, and also keep an eye out because it doesn't always open up for reservations exactly at the 12-month mark, but definitely keep looking back so that as soon as it goes live you can get those reservations, because they go so quickly. And I would like to see a bit more consistency with the booking. I think if at the 12-month mark for hotel guests or the 30-day mark for non-guests, all of the restaurants became available, that would be better, because it's annoying when you go to book and it's like, oh, half the restaurants aren't available yet, so, and you don't know when they're going to become available. So that's difficult. So yeah, fingers crossed you get it, because I think it'll be an amazing experience, but it's so difficult to get. So yes, guys, so the annual pass system is per park. So you can buy one for Disneyland Paris or Disney World or Disneyland, but it doesn't cover all of the Disney parks. It's just for those specific parks. If you go to Disney World very frequently, which most people can't because of how expensive it is to go, it can be good because you get a lot of benefits, like good discounts and stuff like that. Disneyland Paris have recently changed their annual pass system. So now the Disneyland Pass is the new thing. It replaces the old annual pass system. It's got 3 tiers. All of them offer a different number of days. So I think the lowest tier, you get 150 days a year. The highest tier, there's no blackout dates. They have removed most of the benefits. So now kind of the only benefits you get is free parking across all tiers. And then the top 2 tiers, you get discounts on things like merchandise and dining, but it's like 10%. You don't get hotel discount anymore, which for me is the big kicker, because I love to stay on site at Disney. And the thing that's interesting about Disneyland Paris, and the reason why I'd never got an annual pass until this past year, is because if you book a Disneyland Paris package, your tickets are included in the price, and they are at an unbelievably cheap rate. If you want to visit with the new Disneyland Pass and stay on site, you can book room only, but it works out incredibly expensive because your annual pass, if you get the top tier, is €800. But I've looked before, and if you go for like 3 days, the amount they take off if you don't have the tickets as part of your package is about between like £36 and £50. So to get like if you stay 3 nights, you get 4 days of park tickets for £50 is unreal. So your annual pass will never ever work out if you want to stay on site. You have to always stay off site at Disneyland Paris to make the Disneyland Pass work for you. And depending on the tier, I think you need to visit around 12 days a year to make it work, but you have to stay off site. But if you want to do that and you kind of visit quite frequently and you're happy to do that, and you go like 3 or 4 trips a year, it can still be a good option. But it's just that you have to visit in a very specific way now, which is such a shame. So yeah, I'm not going to be renewing my annual pass, because for me, because I tend to visit in the off season, the packages always work out cheaper. So for me, I'm not going to get the new annual pass, but it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I think a lot of people aren't renewing. So let's see if they ever release figures to see how big the drop was. But I actually think it's intentional. I think that because it's the Olympic year, they don't want annual pass holders coming and taking up hotel rooms when they can super inflate the prices for visitors that are going to be visiting for the Olympics. So that's my conspiracy theory. But yes, Christmas time is a fantastic time to visit any Disney park. They are the most magical place at Christmas. There's nowhere more Christmassy than Disney. So if you get to visit any of the Disney parks at Christmas time, definitely do it, because they are so fantastic. But yeah, I'm so glad to hear other people also think that the high prices are because of the Olympics. And I would love to hope that the prices would drop, because like you say, once the Olympics is out of the way. But I've got a feeling the way Disney tends to work is once they increase a price, that becomes the new norm. And I think because next year, probably towards the end of next year, you're going to have Frozen Land open. I've got a horrible feeling that the price is just going to keep on creeping. I think, of course, there will be a tipping point where it becomes so unaffordable that they see a drop in attendance. But we're kind of seeing that with Disney World, that no matter what they're charging at Disney World, the parks are busier than ever. So I don't know what the tipping point will be, but there will be a tipping point. But because Universal are opening a UK theme park, now of course it's not going to be a few years, it's not going to be for a few years, but that will light a fire under Disneyland Paris, because that Universal park could very, very easily instantly become the best theme park in Europe. And I think Disneyland Paris won't be able to kind of rest on their laurels and think we can charge a lot, and because we're Disney, people will come. Because if people have the option of going to Universal, they're going to go, especially because it's brand new. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that impacts what comes to Disneyland Paris and also the pricing. So I think that'll be so good. So yes, I would love to become a Disney World pass holder. I think that would be fantastic. Like my ideal life situation, if I could make it happen, I would actually love to kind of maybe, I think you can visit the US for like 3 months at a time without having to get a full visa. So what I'd really love to do is get an annual pass and maybe go to Disney World twice a year for extended periods, so a couple of months at a time, and then not only make vlogs but actually make the planning videos in the parks. So instead of just going, here's my vlog of what I did during my trip, and then doing the planning videos that I film at home and then put like B-roll into them, it'd be great to be able to make the videos actually inside the parks. That would be the dream. And I think if that was possible, then an annual pass would be fantastic, because you'd be able to get all of the benefits from that. They are significantly more expensive than the Disneyland Paris passes, but you do get much more benefits, and of course you get far more parks, much more to do there. So that would be the dream. And yes, Serena, you're so true. DVC is also a great option. DVC can be really good. I think resale is a really great place to start because it's much cheaper to do resale. But I think doing a DVC trip where you rent points can be a really great way to see if DVC works for you. I have previously done a tour when I was at Disney World of DVC, where you kind of, they take you to a special place, and you have, it's like a 3-hour presentation of, this is the kind of place we're selling at the moment, this is how much it costs, this is how many points you get, and you kind of get an incentive. So I think when I was there, this was 2018, so you got, it was something like 6 or 10 fast passes to any attraction you wanted across Disney World. And I think they said they're going to start bringing back a money incentive if you listen to it, because essentially it's kind of like timeshare, but it can be a big commitment. I'm very lucky that I didn't sign up in 2018, because obviously the pandemic happened, which if you were DVC outside of the US really had a big impact. And then my circumstances changed, so the person I was going to buy with, that wouldn't have worked out. So yeah, it can be one of those things that can be a really great way to visit. And I know the people that visit Disney World from the UK many times a year do tend to have DVC. So if you're thinking of doing it, that can be a really good option. Oh, this is so interesting to hear. Your favourite place to stay in Disneyland Paris is Davy Crockett and having the cabin. And yeah, that's so good. If you're driving, I think that could be a fantastic option, because you've got the cabin, you can do self-catering if you like. The setting looks amazing. It's also great if you've got a bigger party of people, and the prices are fantastic there. So that's definitely a really, really good option. And yes, it's so interesting to hear you going to Disneyland Paris in May, and you're a bit nervous about getting from your Paris hotel to Disneyland Paris. And I actually think the transportation is easier than we think, which is really, really handy. I think from Central Paris, you kind of get a subway or a metro part of the way, and then you switch onto the Rare train, which is spelled R-E-R. Someone like, there's a person called Disney Godmother, which is great, love the play of words. She has done some videos where she'll show you how to do that. And I think Sam for God has also done videos from Central Paris, like this is the trains you get and the subways. So I don't think it's that difficult. It's just knowing exactly what lines to get on and what stations to swap at. But I think it's literally like a metro and a local train, and that's it. And the train station is right at Disneyland Paris, which is fantastic. So you can't get lost. Like the second you step out of the train station, you're at Disneyland Paris, which is fantastic. Yeah, you're so right. It's so handy that the train station is literally right there. And yeah, it's amazing that it's like you couldn't get any closer. It's fantastic. And yes, you're 100% right. Not only are we having a Universal park here, but because Universal have also bought Aventura in Spain, you know, kind of the country above and below France now have Universal stronghold. So I think it's going to be a very, very interesting time in the next couple of years to see what Disney are doing, because Disney have had a very, very tough time financially. I think the past 2 years they've lost $200 billion in revenue, obviously as an effect from the pandemic, but also streaming services being very expensive to run and subscribership going down because of the cost of living crisis, and just stuff like the Galactic Star Cruiser not working out. So kind of that was a big money pit. But as Disney have had all these troubles, like Universal seems to be thriving. So it's really interesting to see, you know, Disney are going to be very, very aware of this and wanting to be able to compete still. And the days where it was just a given that Disney was always going to be number one are kind of coming to an end. So Disney do have to kind of increase their offerings and make it more enticing for people. So I think the next couple of years is going to be great for people like us, because I think we're going to really see some really interesting things happen. Like, fingers crossed, let's hope so. But I think it's going to be fantastic. Like, I can't wait, especially Disneyland Paris, because Disneyland Paris for a long time didn't really have any development. It was actually a franchise for a very long time, and it was going bankrupt, and they just didn't do anything new. And then once Disney rebought it, they did a lot of new things. But I think there's still so much they can do. So I think we're going to have some really interesting announcements. I think on the 14th of April, Disneyland Paris are having an event, and they're going to be announcing some new things. So that's going to be exciting to see what's coming. Oh, this is so interesting. You have dreams about the croque monsieur at Market Deli. I love it when there's a dish that you really, really like and you're like, I need to get this every trip. It's so good because you just know I'm always going to be satisfied with it. It's just going to hit the spot and it's the one. So I'm so glad to hear that's amazing. I'm so glad, Anne, to hear that you had a great experience getting from Central Paris to Disneyland Paris with no problems. And I think because it's such a popular thing to do, like people that visit Paris do a day in Disneyland Paris, they kind of make it simple, which is handy, which is so good. But we've got a few more questions. Some of them we've actually covered. So we talked about the Disney dining. Do you ever do the Disney dining plan? And like I said, it just depends on the way you eat. If you want loads of table service dining and you eat the most expensive options and have the alcohol, they can be really, really good. And it is nice to know it's kind of paid off. You don't have to be worrying about it. But if you don't eat the most expensive things, you're not getting your money's worth. It can be like a money pit. So it's just making sure it works for you. And I have done a video before about the dining, whenever a new dining plan comes out for Disney World, so whether it's the free dining credits and stuff like that, I always do a video that breaks down the maths. I do all the maths to be like, this is how many meals you can get with it, this is how to make it stretch. So I will, once this video is not live anymore, you can still watch it, and I'll put in the description down below links to those sorts of videos. So if you need to come back to them, you can. But this is actually a really interesting question, and I think this is something that doesn't get talked enough about, but we're going to talk about it now. But how to complain if you don't have a good experience. And it's one of those things that Disney, you know, we all hope we have an amazing time, and they do really want to give you great customer service and to not have problems. But if you do ever have a problem, definitely do complain. The best option is to try and complain whilst you're still in the restaurant. So you can always ask to speak to the manager and address anything that happened. If you're still not happy or you didn't say it at the time, you can then go to guest services in the parks. And if you're not satisfied with that, then you can also email. They will have complaints teams for each individual park. As we all know, with the Pim Kitchen thing, I did all of them. I spoke to the restaurant, guest services, and emailed them. And sometimes Disney are famous for their guest services, and I do think like when you're interacting with cast members, they're so amazing. But in my experience, I found when you come across a genuine problem, the guest service isn't what you're told it's going to be. They go above and beyond. When I've had a problem, I've found the opposite, that they're like, we don't want to hear it, we don't want criticism, to the point where sometimes they won't even acknowledge. Like with the Pim Kitchen thing, they didn't, at no point have they ever apologised or kind of acknowledged it was a problem. There was a lot of kind of empty, we want to give you the best experience and we're sorry that didn't happen. but they didn't kind of acknowledge the actual issue. And I would say if you find that, then just keep pressing it. Like, you can email them as much as you need, but if it's something that's been genuinely terrible, like the reason I pressed it so much with Pim Kitchen is dairy is an allergy that kills people. Someone could go into Pim Kitchen, if they have the same experience as me, drop dead on that floor, which obviously Disney are not going to want. So I was like, you have to, like, to me, I don't care about vouchers or this, that and the other. I just want you to take this seriously and speak to your staff and train them properly in allergies and intolerances, so that you're not going to have this terrible incident happen. I think in the US parks, they're much more aware of that. So that's why they're much better. But if you do have any sort of problem, if anything hasn't been quite up to scratch, definitely let them know so they can kind of correct it. The best place to do that is in the restaurant. But as I say, if that doesn't work, guest services or emailing them just to let them know so they're aware is the way forward. Oh, this is such a good question. Your favourite splurge restaurants as a vegan in Disneyland Paris? You have reservations for Lumiere and Remy's. So the thing that's really, really great, I personally love Manhattan in the Art of Marvel Hotel. It's so good. The setting's really stunning. Food incredible. I've not actually eaten at Le Table de Lumiere yet. So I'd love to hear your experience if you're happy to share it with me. So it'll be interesting to see what the vegan options are like there. I think Remy can be really cute. I think the thing you're paying for mostly at Remy is the really cool experience. The food I've had has always been good, but I think the experience is what you're paying for. Like the whole storyline that you've been shrunk down to the size of a rat. Like, and we've had amazing cast members there. It's been so funny. So I hope you really, really enjoyed that as well. But there's not too many table service restaurants. Like, I would say somewhere that people have recommended a lot is, it's not Cape Cod, it's the Cape Cod's a buffet, it's the one that's not the buffet. People have said that's really, really good as well, especially if you're vegan. They've got like an amazing pavlova dessert. I also really love Auberge de Cendrillon, which is the princess dining meal next to the castle. The experience was great. You had really great interaction with the princesses, much better than waiting 200 minutes at the Princess Pavilion. And the food was really good as well, especially for vegans. Like the main was kind of like, it was like an oblong meatball but with different vegetables, and the dessert was that cherry and chocolate lava cake, which is unreal. So they are definitely really good options. But yes, thank you so much for being so understanding. And is it Anne or Anne Marie? Because I always hate if people have like a double name and people only do their first name. I know how irritating that is. So I do apologise. I've just been calling you Anne if your full name is Anne Marie. But yeah, thank you for being like so understanding about Pim Kitchen. It's one of those things that, like I say, in France, I think because their understanding of veganism and like, I get a sense that like dietary requirements and stuff is still developing there. They just didn't really care. And it's that thing of like, I was obviously really worried about getting ill because, as we all know, as well as all of my other weird quirks, I have a phobia of being sick. So I was really worried about getting ill from it. And luckily I didn't throw up, but I did feel sick for the next 2 days. And like, it was just not fun. But it's just also that thing of, because I don't ethically eat animals, like immediately I wanted to cry. I felt sick because it was just like, this is so against what I believe. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, it's just such a shame. And I think it's one of those like unfortunate experiences. I think a lot of people would eat there and have no problems whatsoever. But I've kind of learned the lesson, so I will always check the allergy menu if I ever went to a buffet in Disneyland Paris again, because I don't want to run the risk again. So this is a great question about experiences with Uber in the US. I haven't used Uber in the US. I have used Uber at Disneyland Paris and never had any problems. My aunt and cousin were in Disney World last year and they actually stayed on International Drive because they did like a last minute deal and they had a really fantastic price. And they used Uber a lot to get to the parks, the outlets, stuff like that, and they always had a good experience. So that's good. I think the good thing is because there's like a rating system, you can feel a bit more comfortable. But I'm 100% with you. Like, I am always, as a solo female traveller, cautious about using Uber and Lyft because as much as people get good reviews, if you get one person that's, I don't feel like anything's necessarily bad going to happen, but there could be a driver who's a bit unusual or uncomfortable discussions, and it's kind of that thing of like, okay, we just get to the destination. But yeah, my cousin and my aunt had an amazing time. They had no problems, so that's good news. But it's interesting to hear Anne-Marie had great experiences with Uber and Lyft in Disney World, but Lucy had a bad experience with Lyft. So it's a difficult thing. It's kind of very hit or miss. But I think typically overall, it's kind of okay. It's just that one bad apple. As we've been saying, it's always that, like, most of the time things can be great, and if you get one bad experience, it does kind of taint your thing, because you're like, oh, I don't want that to happen again. But yes, Guy, you're so right. Like, Disneyland Paris definitely need to up their game when it comes to allergies, and Disney World, they're next level. And it's that thing where Disneyland Paris is now owned by Disney. I hope they do start moving towards the American standard, because they couldn't do more than enough. But I think the point being that where Disneyland Paris, a lot of the food is cooked off-site, frozen, and then taken to the parks and reheated. That, I think, is part of the problem, because Disney World, they're making the stuff fresh. So if you need to make accommodations or they need to make stuff for you, they can. Whereas Disneyland Paris, it's a completely different operation. And I think that's where the issue lies. So let's hope that they kind of improve that, because then in general, just the food standard for everyone's going to improve as well. And yes, it's so interesting news to hear you've had experience with the minivans, because minivans are so cute. They're so much fun. You can only use them on Disney property. They're operated by Lyft, but because they're mini themed and they're only at Disney, you can opt in Lyft to have one of them. They do charge a bit more because you've got the cute theming, but yeah, I suppose because it's on property, you're getting a great experience. Put the pin on. What's the, oh, put the pin on. Oh, so in your, if you're in Uber and Lyft, you can put the pin on. That's such a good option, because like you say, you can then also send the details to friends or family, so they know where you are, they can track your journey. So I think there's like loads of great features that can help you feel comfortable, which is really, really good. And yes, Lucy, you're 100% true. Use the safety features, check the driver, stuff like that, and I think you'll be fine. And I think because it's such a big tourist destination, they're probably so hot on making sure that the drivers are kind of all operating at a really good level, so that's fantastic. But yeah, it's nice to know that there's easy ways to get around Orlando, because like you say, you want to be able to go to the outlet malls, you might want to go to International Drive or like certain restaurants in Orlando, or if you're staying on site at Disney, going to Universal for the day, and you don't always want to have a car, so it can be a really, really great way to get around. But yes, I've kind of actually come to the end of all of my questions, so if you do have any more questions, do let me know so we can answer them before going. But it's been so handy to have all of your tips and advice and your experiences, because that's the thing, with one person you can, like I say, my pim experience wasn't great, other people, it's their favorite restaurant, they go there every single time. So I always think it's great to be able to have a variety of experiences, because then you can kind of pick like, oh, lots of people really enjoy that, so it's definitely worth trying. But I think food is such a big part of any Disney trip. It's worth doing a little bit of research, even if it's just like looking at the menus before you go, so you can decide, oh, that would be one that I really want to eat in. Because sometimes some people will just turn up to the parks, and then once they start feeling hungry, they see a restaurant and they go, we're eating there. And because of that, you don't always get the best experience. So if you can do a little bit of research, it can really, really enhance your experience. But there are lots and lots of really good restaurants to visit, lots of different cuisines, dining styles. I think character dining is 100% fantastic, because it saves you all that time queuing to meet characters. You get to meet multiple characters at once. You're also getting a meal, so I'm a big fan of character dining. I would also say, if you are solo, definitely still do character dining. Don't be put off. I know a lot of people think, can I go if I'm solo? Will it look strange? But I've always gone and had an amazing experience. And in fact, I think they kind of go above and beyond because they know you're solo. But also, you see quite a lot of solo people at Disney now. And I also think so many people are so caught up in what they're doing, they're not even noticing you. So if you wanted to go, definitely go, because it can be fantastic. Oh, that's so interesting that you can use the minivans to go to Flamingo Crossing, which would be perfect because it's right next door. That would be amazing. I think a lot of the Disney college program people live in Flamingo Crossing, so it's kind of like developing area, which is fantastic. So that'll be really handy because, like you say, you can go shopping there. There's some restaurants, so that's really, really good. Thank you so much, Guy. That's such a lovely comment, and it's so nice to hear from you. I'm so excited for your trip, and I'm so glad we've booked all your dining now because it's such a fun part. And I feel like, I don't know if anyone else gets like this, when you book your Disney trip, you book the initial trip and it's so exciting, and then you do research of like what I want to do, what rides I want to go on, stuff like that. But then there's like a big gap before you can book your dining. But then when you get to book your dining, you get like another boost of like, oh my god, I'm so excited, there's more planning, and you also know that you're going to Disney very soon, so that's very exciting. Yes, 53 days for you now as well. Unreal. The days will go so quickly now until your trip, so I cannot wait. And I can't wait to hear about it when you come back, what you thought, because it's literally a dream trip. I'm so excited for you. So at the moment, I don't have anything planned for 2025 besides Disneyland Paris. I'm hoping, what I would really like to do is, when they announce the offer, I'd like to visit Disney World in November time. So I've never ever done any of the Christmas stuff at Disney World. And having had the experience last year at Disneyland, I loved it. My friends Ellie and Mitchell, they go often in November to experience Christmas at Disney World, and it always looks amazing. So I would love to do that. So that's what I have my fingers crossed for when it comes to the offer. That's the time of year I'm hoping to visit. But does anyone else have any plans for 2025? What would you like to do? Are there any trips you want to take? Anywhere you'd like to visit? It would be incredible. I'm desperate to visit the Asian parks, and the only thing that's stopping me at the moment is the lack of vegan options. But I've got a friend out there at the moment. He's just been to Shanghai and he's been to Hong Kong, both of the Disney parks, and he's found quite a lot of vegan options, and I think he's also going to do little videos about them. So I can't wait to hear from him, and everything he's had so far looks great. So I feel like there's more vegan options than I realised. I think Tokyo's still that's a bit more tricky, but I think they said just outside the parks there's restaurants you can pop to instead, so that would be amazing because they look next level. These parks look literally incredible. I don't know if you've always been watching, but Paging Mr. Morrow, he's one of my favourite Disney World vloggers. He's just done a series where he's been to Tokyo, and it's been fantastic seeing what he's been doing, and I've loved it. I've loved it. I can't get enough of it. Oh, so out of all of the Disney parks I've been to, I think Disneyland is my favourite, and like specifically Disneyland Park in Anaheim. It's unbelievable. It's so packed full of things. I've never seen a Disney park with so many rides, attractions, shows in it. Loved the roaming characters. Like the fact that you're just walking around and you bump into characters, and the fact they interact with each other. So there was a great moment where I was walking down Main Street and Cruella de Vil was walking one way and Mickey and Pluto and Goofy were walking the other way, and obviously Pluto being a dog, she was trying to like lure him so she kind of make a coat out of him, and it was so fun to see that. And of course you've got all of the history, the food is incredible. I also really like that because it's in the dead center of a city. All around it you have hotels. There's so many hotels based on your budget, the type of accommodation you need. Like Disneyland I was just blown away with. Like it was so good, and I can't wait to go back. I'm desperate to visit again because it's just magical. If you ever get a chance to go out to California and visit it, definitely take it. And I know Serena is going this summer, so I cannot wait to see her experience. Serena has a channel, so definitely go check out all of her vlogs. They go to Disneyland Paris. I've just been watching your Efteling series, which is amazing. That looks like a fantastic park. There's loads of theme parks actually in Europe I'd love to visit. I've never been to Efteling. I'd love to go to Europa Park and Phantasialand in Germany, Tivoli Gardens. Like there's so many places to visit and just not enough time. Yes, Guy, if your daughter loves Disney World, you're hoping to go back in 2025. So when I know, once the offer is released, I will let you know what the offer is for 2025. And yeah, I think if she loves Disney World, then she'll really love Disney in California, because I also like that it's smaller. So you've got, it's kind of the Disneyland Paris thing where the parks are opposite each other, and then you've got downtown Disney right next to it. So it's very walkable, very easy to get about. but you've just got everything there. It's unreal. And the fact that you've also got all of the classic Disney attractions. There's so many unique rides just to Disneyland, but you've also got Galaxy's Edge and Avengers Campus in one destination is amazing. So you've got like the full shebang in California, which is great. But yes, visiting Disneyland in their next anniversary would be fantastic, and it's coming up. I think is it next year? There's another anniversary coming up for Disneyland, which would be fantastic. It's opened in 1955, so coming up to an anniversary. It'll be interesting to see if they're going to do anything for it, what the plans are going to be. So later this year, I would imagine they will announce what that's going to be, but that would be fantastic. And yeah, just see how they're going to celebrate, which would be good. Yes, I'm so glad to hear you love Nate too. He is so joyful, and I love just watching him because it's like a little ray of sunshine, just uplifting, and it's great. What I love about him visiting the Disney World parks is it's really nice to see kind of like a local point of view. Some of the visits often how they visit the parks because they kind of know tips and tricks, and you can learn a lot from that. So I absolutely love that. And what a dream if you were in Disney, you bumped into Nate. It would be so good. And I just saw, like, how incredible is this? In La Cava del Tequila, which is the kind of tequila bar in the Mexican pavilion in Epcot, he's now got a drink named after him. And I'm like, how amazing is that? That's so exciting. I think it's like a peanut butter and banana tequila. Who knows what that's going to be like? That's so cool. But that's so amazing that you actually met him and he told you the best place to stand for fireworks. And that's the thing, isn't it? He's going to know all of those tips as a local. And I'm so glad to hear he was so nice. And yeah, it's just the best, isn't it? When you get to kind of meet people that you've been watching in real life. And that's the thing, if you ever are in Disney, you see me, definitely come and say hello. I love getting to meet you in person. And I'm so excited for Disney World in September because we're going to do these meetups. Can't wait for Roundup Rodeo Barbecue. I think it's going to be amazing. Like, I cannot wait for the whole like show when you're in there, the whole Toy Story thing. And yeah, like I said, I'm sure we'll do more than one meetup. So if you don't fancy that restaurant or it's not available the day that you're going to be there, we'll do other things. So I think it's going to be so much fun. But yeah, it's amazing that Pedro Mismora has his own drink now. How exciting. Like, what an amazing thing to have happen. It's like the dream. But yeah, I'm loving it. And his Tokyo series, if you've ever wanted to go, definitely go check that out. It's so great to see. And it's very interesting. They're getting to... Tokyo is very famous for having very long queues. And I don't know if he's visiting at a time of year where it's busier than usual, but the queues are unbelievably long. But he's kind of talking all about their version of Premier Access. He's also visited Universal, which is over in Osaka. They went on the bullet train there. So if you're ever thinking of visiting Tokyo, there's a really good videos to go and watch. And I know Sam for God also went. That was an amazing series. So yes, there's lots of great videos out there with lots of tips and advice. But thank you all so much for attending. It's been lovely to chat to you all, especially on Easter Sunday. So thank you so much for taking time out of your bank holiday weekend to come and chat to me. I've loved hearing all your experiences and your own tips and advice. And I hope that you found some useful tips and advice about dining in Disney World. Next month we will have another live stream. I'm loving doing these every month and having them themed around a different topic. So if there are any topics that you would like to see, do let me know. And like I say, if there's any topics or guests you would like on the podcast, let me know that as well. And if you want to be on the podcast, come and chat to me. You can either leave a comment down below or send me a DM on Instagram. But thank you so much for joining it. It's been absolutely lovely. Oh yes, can you imagine if I'm not even someone that drinks. Imagine if I'm in the Cava del Tequila having the Pedro Mr. Morrow tequila, and then all of a sudden I'm a different person on camera. We've unleashed something. Maybe that could be quite fun. Maybe that should be something we try. But no, thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, until next time, I hope you have a most magical day, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your Easter bank holiday weekend. It's nice with a day off tomorrow. If you have a day off, I hope you have a lovely time. And if you're working, thank you so much, because we all appreciate you working your way through bank holidays, because it's no fun. But you're doing an amazing job, so we very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. See you all soon. This is the really awkward bit where we'll have to pretend that like it's not awkward, even though I'm trying to press buttons. See you soon. Bye bye. Oh God. can't find the end. See,